Much and welcome to St. Louis, Missouri. We're here at Busch Stadium for the final game of this series between the hometown Cardinals and the LA Dodgers. This is Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. A large and lively crowd here in St. Louis tonight, including some fans of Clayton Kershaw. And aren't they excited because their favorite pitcher is on the mound for the Dodgers tonight as they try to salvage the final game of this series. Milwaukee lost today. The Cardinals are now in sole possession of first place in the NL Central. The Giants lost today. The Dodgers are a half game back of their arch rivals for top spot in the National League West. For years now, he has been as good as anybody in baseball, but he's at his absolute best right now. Some ridiculous numbers being put up by Clayton Kershaw in his last 8 starts, including one of the longest consecutive scoreless inning streaks we've seen in many, many years, and also the no-hitter that he spun against the Rockies with 15 strikeouts just a couple of weeks ago. Hi, everybody, and welcome to St. Louis. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, glad you're with us tonight for Sunday Night Baseball. There are so many good pitchers in baseball right now. Adam Wainwright, Felix Hernandez, and others come to mind. But nobody is doing it better right now than Clayton Kershaw.
Now, Dan, if there was any question who the best pitcher in baseball, I think Clayton Kershaw's put that to rest with what he's done so far this season. And Don Mattingly credits the slider, the evolution of his slider, comparing it to Ron Guidry and Steve Carlton. That's how biting of a slider is. He throws it harder than he has in any years past. He's getting a lot of strikeouts with it, both against righties and lefties. And when you've won 2 of the 3 Cy Young Awards in the last 3 seasons and 3 ERA titles, something's pretty special. Also, 8-0 in games following a Dodgers loss. They're following 2 losses right now. They need him bad.
Yeah, this is a big game for the Dodgers. They're in the middle of a long road trip. They're going to Pittsburgh, then back to San Francisco. They need a W tonight. The Cardinals will try to prevent that. They're playing some pretty good baseball right now, played well going into the break, and they've won their first 2 coming out of the break. For more on the Cardinals, down to Buster.
Dan, last year the St. Louis Cardinals finished first in the National League in runs scored, and this year 14th out of 15. Now, they've been looking for an offensive breakout, and they're getting it at least from their slugger, Matt Holliday. This month, he's hitting .304 with a .929 OPS. Manager Mike Matheny says, you know what? It was only a matter of time. And as incredible as Clayton Kershaw has been, remember this. The Cardinals can look back to the playoffs last year and recall that they beat Kershaw twice. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. On the mound for St. Louis tonight, 22-year-old right-hander Carlos Martinez, one of the hardest throwers in baseball. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Bayer Back and Body, the official pain reliever of MLB. celebrating our 25th season as the national game of the week. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Back at Busch Stadium here in St. Louis, just about ready for baseball. The Dodgers and the Cardinals, two of the game's most iconic and historic franchises, and two teams with their sights set on the postseason this year. Don Mattingly in his fourth season as Dodger manager. It's been an up and down season for the Dodgers. They don't have quite the record I think a lot of people thought they would have, but they still find themselves just a half game out in the National League West. A look at the Dodgers starting lineup tonight, presented by Taco Bell. D. Gordon, the All-Star, leads it off. Hanley Ramirez is battling a shoulder problem. The Dodgers as a group have not swung the bats well at all recently, scoring only 12 runs in their last 7 games. They've scored only 2 in each of the first 2 games in this series, and they're facing a guy with a world of potential, a world of ability in Carlos Martinez.
Yeah, he's pitched out of the bullpen the last couple of years, and we know about the dynamic fastball. You mentioned in the open, one of the hardest throwers in baseball. But it's his inability so far to get lefties out on a consistent basis that has hurt him in his 6 starts this year.
Mike Matheny talked about how kind of took a step back in his last start, reverted from a pitcher to a heaver is the way he said it. A thrower, just tried to throw everything 105 miles an hour. Doesn't need to do that. As D. Gordon leads it off and takes ball 1. The Dodgers second baseman, a great story. Guy who a couple of years ago, after the trade of Rafael Furcal, was anointed as the Dodgers shortstop. Played himself out of the role, had to go back to the minors, played some winter ball. They even experimented with him a little bit in the outfield down in the minors to see if he could play there, but he's come back as a second baseman, more confidence, doing better at second than he did at short, and leading the National League in stolen bases right now with 44.
Yeah, and he's been about the only consistent offensive player so far this year for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like you said, getting on base, stealing bases, creating runs with his legs, and for a team that you thought would be able to hit a ton of home runs, he's been their most valuable player easily this year. Position player.
In at third, Matt Carpenter, and there's the bunt, but it's bunted foul by Gordon. That's always a weapon for him with his speed. 84 degrees at game time. Very nice for St. Louis in July. We've both sat through much steamier nights in St. Louis in the middle of the summer than this one.
Played in a lot steamier nights and days.
2-2 the count on Gordon. Carpenter backs up now. And he chases the high fastball at 99 and strikes out.
Well, this is what Carlos Martinez can bring to the table. You see the 99 up and out of the strike zone. But his first couple of fastballs, Dan, were 95, 95. Like Mike Matheny said, he said it comes out of his hand at 95, however much he wants to put on it, and he elevates the fastball to D. Gordon at 99. Can't catch up.
So one down for the shortstop, Hanley Ramirez, battling a sore shoulder right now. You see his numbers for the year. He's struggling some defensively. He's missed some games every now and again because of the shoulder. Trying to play through it. It is his throwing shoulder, his right shoulder. This is his 86th game this year. 274, 11 homers. In 86 games last year, which is all he played last year, 345, 20 homers. His offense significantly down from where it was a year ago, and he's not the only one in the Dodger lineup who's suffering from that.
You'll see the rest of the lineup. We can say that about pretty much everyone in it struggling offensively.
Matt Kemp not having a good year. Andre Ethier not having a good year. The amazing thing is they're fourth in the National League in runs scored, but they are slipping right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Hanley being hurt. That shoulder, you wonder if his power production will ever get back this year until he can get it 100% healthy.
Look at that, 96 with about 6 or 8 inches of movement on that two-seam fastball.
And that's a great 2-strike pitch too, because it looks like a strike till it's about 3/4 way there, and all of a sudden it starts bearing down on you. And I don't know if Hanley didn't swing because he didn't think he could hit it, or he didn't swing and got lucky.
Got a 90-mile-an-hour slider.
You know the saying,
yep.
Stay in school.
Good to get that out of the way early tonight with Kershaw and Martinez out there, right?
Yeah, that's the message.
Tony Cruz doing the catching in the absence of the injured Yadier Molina. And a jam shot that's probably going to leave some bees in the hands of Ramirez. 2 down.
Well, Dan, you mentioned about the running fastball by Carlos Martinez, and I mean, you see it right there. It's a 4-seam fastball. He just gets around it and makes it run into the right-handed hitters. And I mean, look where he hits this thing. That's below the label, and you can't tell me that Hanley Ramirez wasn't worried about running to first base. He was worried about will his thumb be attached when he gets there.
That's a well-made bat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
that bat didn't crack. Here's Adrian Gonzalez. First pitch swinging, and a lazy pop-up into shallow left center. Who wants it? It's Matt Holliday. And a very effective first inning for Carlos Martinez. Clayton Kershaw to take the mound for the Dodgers when we come back.
So now it's his moment. He has not allowed a hit. He's got it. Clayton Kershaw pitches a no-hitter.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by the new film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in theaters August 8th. This film is not yet rated. And Axe Dark and new Axe Gold, 2 irresistible fragrances. Bottom of the first, Busch Stadium, St. Louis. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Dodgers go in order. Here come the Cardinals against 2-time Cy Young Award winner Clayton Kershaw, who's put up incredible numbers despite missing a month of the season. Remember the muscle behind his shoulder that cost him April after the start in Australia at the beginning of the year against Arizona. Great numbers, and even greater numbers, Truckee, over his last 8 starts.
Well, Dan, he is the best in baseball, and I know, you know, you mentioned it. There's no disrespect to Adam Wainwright, Felix Hernandez, and others, but it's just fact. He's the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, you look at the numbers, and you know, when he first came up, the walks were an issue, the high pitch counts were an issue. Well, he's controlled that because he's throwing a better slider. He's throwing his breaking ball for strikes. Now you have to swing at the fastballs early.
Cardinal lineup presented by Taco Bell, featuring leadoff hitter Matt Carpenter, one of 2 left-handed bats in there against Kershaw. Mike Matheny got as many righties in there as he could. Every bat on the bench tonight is a lefty. Carpenter, after a slow start, is starting to resemble the hitter that he was last year, more the last 6 or 7 weeks. Not quite driving the ball with as much authority, but getting on base a lot. The last 2 games, he's gone 0 for 7. Doesn't have a hit in this series. But prior to that, you can see the numbers have improved since the month of April. And you saw this team a ton last year. he made the engine go. He was on base every inning.
And not only on base, it seemed like with all the doubles he hit, I mean, breaking Stan Musial's record for doubles by a St. Louis Cardinal, he was on second base as much as anyone I've ever seen.
Swing and a miss, 2-2. It'll be Carpenter, Peter Borges, and then Matt Holliday in the bottom of the first here for St. Louis.
You could see that slider now, 2-2. He has confidence he can throw it 3-2 if he wants, but I think let's try to get this strikeout and get this thing underway with a little slider right here.
Fastball fouled back. So many hitters swing early in the count against Kershaw for two reasons. He throws a lot of strikes, and they know if he gets you to 2 strikes, he's got so many different ways to put you away.
Yeah, and that's, Don Mattingly told us, he said there's a lot of times in the 5th, 6th inning, you look up and he's got 50, 60 pitches because everyone's swinging early, but that's the only way. He's either going to go 9 or you're going to knock him out early, and that doesn't happen.
And that ball lifted into right center field. Ethier is there. And Carpenter is retired. Now Peter Borges. Normally John Jay gets most of the playing time in center field for the Cardinals, but again a chance to get another right-handed bat in there. It's not like righties do great against Kershaw, but you'd rather have a righty in there than a lefty.
Well, 30 points higher righties hit off of him, and they're still below 200. So, yeah, it's a fun day for all.
There's John Jay getting at least the beginning of the night off. First pitch swinging, Borges, pop up, foul territory. Gonzalez 2 down. Mixed into that 8 starts that Kershaw's had was the no-hitter against Colorado. One of the greatest games that has ever been pitched in Major League Baseball history. No hits, no walks, 15 strikeouts. The only runner reached on an error. It's the first game in baseball history where somebody has not allowed a hit or a walk and has struck out 15. First game ever where that's happened.
Yeah, and it's not like the Rockies are,
right.
A little league team he's pitching against. They can run up some guys who can drive in some runs. And
well, here's a good matchup. Matt Holliday, who has driven in 5 of the 7 Cardinal runs in the weekend series and hit 2 balls about as hard Friday night as a baseball can be hit. One a double to center and one a home run way up onto the grassy knoll in center. And the curveball's in the house.
Well, he knows the hot hitter, and first pitch fastball. Now let's go slow curve. He might throw the slider down and in and try to get him to swing over top of it.
He did, and he did.
89.
And it's vintage Kershaw to begin the night. 3 up and 3 down go the Cardinals. No score at the end of 1 after the Kershaw strikeout of Matt Holliday. And he starts tonight just the way he's looked in his last 8 starts. Score baseball. We go to the top of the second here in St. Louis. No score. Dodgers and Cardinals. Matt Kemp leading it off against Carlos Martinez. And he swings through a first pitch fastball. Kemp hitting .265, 8 homers so far this year. Has become a left fielder for the Dodgers. No longer playing in center. And struggling to recreate the kind of numbers he put up 2 and especially 3 years ago. Wow. At the knees with a 94-mile-an-hour. Looked like a cutter there. I mean, the way that ball was moving.
Yeah, it looked like it was like a hard split the way it just shot down in the strike zone at 94. But it's just a different way you can grip a ball to make it move in different ways. And looks like he's had some good stuff here tonight.
And there's a slider outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Kemp recently saying, I want to play every day and I want to be a center fielder. Neither of those things happening right now with the Dodgers. They've got, as everybody knows, more outfielders than spots. And it's kind of a daily thing for Don Mattingly to determine, and unfortunately for him, to address every day with the media. Yes, he did. But Mattingly, who's got a nice way of diffusing situations, said, I heard what he said. He's playing left field.
Yeah.
End of story.
And that's the only way he can handle it, because if he gives in, then then you have Carl Crawford, you have Andre Ethier might come in. Not saying they will, but they could go in and say, hey, I want to play right field and bat 4th or 5th or whatever. And things just he's the manager. He has to put what he thinks is the best, gives his team the best chance to win on any given day. Look, if he was hitting 315, 320. Like he did a few years ago when he was runner-up to the MVP, then you say, okay, you're our center fielder. But he's not. He hasn't produced offensively yet this season, so you play where the manager tells you right now.
And here's Andre Ethier, and he has been playing some center. He's in right field tonight. He's a natural right fielder, and his numbers are down. 2 years ago, he hit 20 homers. Last year, he hit 12. This year, he's got 4. And the problem for the Dodgers is all of these guys are getting paid based on what they used to do, but they're not doing what they used to do.
Yeah, and he just fouled one off his knee right here. And, when you got 5 outfielders, the last thing you want to do is limp because they got someone to replace you. It looks like just a 4-seam fastball that just runs in on his hands a little bit. It's master of the obvious. That hurts.
Yasiel Puig, by the way, is not in the lineup tonight. Hit on the hand by a pitch yesterday. X-rays were negative, and the Dodgers are confident it's not serious, but they're going to take further X-rays when the team gets to Pittsburgh tomorrow. So tonight, the outfield left to right is Kemp, Scott Van Slyke, who's on deck, and Ethier. Carl Crawford not in the lineup. Yasiel Puig not in the lineup. Van Slyke, I don't know if you'd say you wouldn't say he's a natural center fielder, but Don Mattingly says he's better than adequate. He does a good job out there. Good routes to the ball and good instincts, good jump. Ethier with a fly ball to right field. Craig back, and it's over his head and off the wall. And Ethier's around second on his way to third and is in there without a throw.
Well, again, this time of night, the ball's hard to pick up off the bat, and then once it gets in the air, it gets a little harder. But here's a slider. Now, he threw fastballs early in the count to get ahead, and he throws a slider that just stays out over the plate. He tried to backdoor him, it looks like, where Cruz was setting up, and he just caught too much the center of the plate. And we see Alan Craig. Alan Craig's not going to win Gold Gloves. We understand about the foot injury, the ankle injury last year. He's not the fleetest of foot. Would have been a great catch if he made it, but give Andre Ethier credit after fouling one off his knee to make it to third base with less than 2 outs.
And now you see something interesting. Normally, second inning runner at third, you don't see the infield in. They're in now for one reason, and that's because Clayton Kershaw is on the mound for the Dodgers, and you give up one, and that might be one too many.
Yeah, and you don't want to give up a ground ball to score a run.
The shift on with the infield in, although Mark Ellis keeps moving around, changing his mind out there at second.
And you look at who's hitting behind now. Uribe's, I think Uribe's a great hitter. I love watching him hit, but if he rolls one through the infield here to score Ethier, where it would have been a routine ground ball, run-scoring ground ball and get an out. Yeah, you don't really have to worry about a lot of hitters behind him right now besides Uribe, because they're just, no one's hitting in this lineup.
Scott Van Slyke, the son, of course, of Andy Van Slyke, who played both here and in Pittsburgh, a tremendous player in his day, a great center fielder, Gold Glove Award winning center fielder. And although Scott grew up here, he says because he spent summers more so in Pittsburgh when his dad was playing there, he's actually grew up more of a Pirates fan than anything else. Comes in as a Dodger here tonight. And a 100-mile-an-hour fastball to get him.
Well, this is pitch, and he got him to pull a ground ball foul on a fastball in. And there you go. This is what you like about what Carlos Martinez is doing. When he needs to strike out, he can get up there to 99, 100 miles an hour, and that ball was by Van Slyke. Again, elevated like he did to D. Gordon. He did it to Van Slyke right there. Well, if you get 2 strikes, you better look for something up in the strike zone elevated, because he's going to try to power it by you.
Here's Juan Uribe. Uribe hitting .292, 5 homers. Runner at third, 2 down, no score, top of the second. And a little flare. Trouble as it drops in for a base hit, and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead.
He gets a big strike out of Van Slyke to make it 2 outs, needing a 2-out hit. And there you see, that's a 2-seam fastball right there at 97 miles an hour. Just gets in on Uribe and jams him, and that's the only reason why that ball dropped in. If he hits it off the barrel, it's probably an out. But again, he gets jammed. It gets underneath the ball, bloops it into right field. Think that's enough?
Here's A.J. Ellis. Just off the outside corner at 99 for ball 1 to Ellis, the Dodger catcher. And a strike, 1-1.
Well, you like that right there. You mentioned Mike Matheny saying his last start he was heaving the ball. And that's a good pitch right there. 1-0 count. He throws a slider to A.J. Ellis to get strike 1. That shows you that he's invested in this game, and he knows he can't give up many more.
There are some, as these young arms started to surface in the majors for the Cardinals, Trevor Rosenthal, Michael Wacha, Joe Kelly, Shelby Miller, so many great young arms. There are some who felt of all of them that this guy, Carlos Martinez, has the best pure stuff.
And you know, pure stuff with movement and everything, I think he does. But you have to remember, he's only 22 years old. I know he's been around for, the last couple years, but he's still very young and still learning. And when you pitch out of the bullpen, it's a whole different animal than when you start. You don't have to use your repertoire out of the bullpen. You come in and throw 100 every pitch and just let it fly.
He wanted to be a starter coming out of spring, lost the 5th starter's job to Joe Kelly in the spring, although he pitched well in the spring as well. Went to the bullpen, and then when Wacha and Garcia both got hurt, the Cardinals making that announcement on the same day about a month ago, the Cardinals had to move people around, and they moved Carlos Martinez into the rotation. Joe Kelly there on the left had a terrific start yesterday for St. Louis. 7 innings, 1 run. There's Wacha sitting beside him, and they hope to get an update on his condition tomorrow, what they're calling a stress reaction in his shoulder. Kelly suffered a hamstring injury, missed a couple of months. Not a lot of teams have the options to bring talent like this off the DL, move a Martinez around. I mean, they've got a tremendous amount of young pitching.
Yeah, but still the best is the old veteran, Adam Wainwright. But yeah, that's a great luxury to have. A bunch of guys throwing 95 to 100.
And And the inning is over. 3 strikeouts for Martinez, but a run for the Dodgers and a 1-0 lead for Kershaw here in St. Louis. One to nothing. The Dodgers lead the Cardinals going to the bottom of the second. 1-out triple by Andre Ethier. He came in and out later on a bloop RBI single by Juan Uribe. So Clayton Kershaw, who looked very strong in the first, now will face Johnny Peralta, Matt Adams, and Alan Craig here in the bottom of the second. And a fastball at the belt. A strike called on Peralta, who's had a productive season for the Cardinals. 14 home runs, 26 doubles. Rolls over on one foul, and the count is 0-2. Has not had any fun facing Clayton Kershaw.
I'm sure that's a big party there at they can gather with guys who are struggling against Clayton Kershaw.
And he just missed. Tried to find the outside corner with a fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Kershaw had a long look in at home plate umpire Ed Hickox. If that's a ball, it's a tough one to take, but I guess he's looking for this one. Slider down and in. Whee!
Held off, and it's 2-2.
Tell you what, just watching the slider he threw to Matt Holliday, watching this one he just threw to Johnny Peralta, it does remind me a lot of the Steve Carlton slider. That hard biting, but a bigger slider than just, some of the guys throw that little tight one, but this is a bigger slider, but it's thrown hard and perfect spots.
That's it again.
Got an 94 mile an hour fastball, 89, 80. This one's at 87, but when you see the location, that's what's the tough part. If Peralta doesn't swing it, that ball is probably down in the dirt or down lower in the strike zone than a strike.
This is very high with a fastball. The count is now full. Kershaw has walked only 13 batters this year. This is his 15th start. Matt Adams is on deck, one of the 2 left-handed bats in the Cardinal lineup tonight. And that looked like a changeup, Crucky, and it's going to wind up being an infield hit. You don't see that pitch often from Kershaw.
Tell you what else you don't see a lot too, and I give Johnny Peralta a lot of credit. Here's another one of the that looked like a hard backdoor slider he threw, but how many pitchers do you ever see be in a position to field a ball when it's a grounder to third base? Look how quickly he gets over there to this ball. See the slide and the divot, and Uribe did everything he could, but I mean that's quite a. I mean it's not Rory McIlroy like, but that's quite a pelt. I mean, he was over there to field the ball in front of the third baseman. That's not a bunt.
He has won one Gold Glove in his career. He can also swing the bat a little bit as well. He's not just a guy out there on the mound just throwing as he misses ball one low to Adams.
Well, this is also a thing with Clayton Kershaw too. You see the slide step. He'll go to the slide step every time there's someone on, whether you can steal a base or not. That's what he does. And the thing you like about it, he doesn't lose stuff. A lot of guys slide step, they lose stuff. He doesn't.
Adams, a guy who's been swinging the bat much better since coming off the DL. He was hitting for an average the whole year, but early in the season it seemed a lot of base hits the other way. Wasn't hitting for a lot of power. Since he's come back, he's been pulling the ball more and driving the ball more.
Yeah, and they needed it. And I know Mike Matheny downplays the power stuff, but I mean, you can get a couple runs on the board with one swing. Instead of trying to get lumped together 3 or 4 hits to score a couple runs, that's baseball.
And the Cardinals have been so quiet offensively for most of the season. They needed anybody to step up and start swinging the bat better. Colton Wong finished the first half, had hit 5 home runs in his last 8 games before the All-Star break. Matt Holliday swinging the bat better, and Matt Adams has really brought some pop to the middle of the order. Curveball misses up and in.
That was just an overthrow right there by Clayton Kershaw, trying to snap off a great breaking ball on a 1-2 pitch to Matt Adams.
Two-two, and a swing and a miss at 1 down in the dirt.
All right, so he throws 94. He's got a slider at 89. And this? He threw him a breaking ball 1-2 that he hung, overthrowing it, but this one is executed perfectly. You see how he got on top of that ball with his fingers, and that brings that downward action in. And when you're a left-handed hitter and you see that pitch breaking straight down, it's a devastating pitch because all you think is fastball. You see it where it was released, you think fastball, 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 and then it breaks about 2 or 3 feet out of the zone.
And now the batter, Alan Craig, such an important part of the St. Louis offense the last couple of years, but has not been able to get close to his numbers of either of the last 2 seasons. Supposed to be the cleanup hitter, and he was the cleanup hitter for much of the early part of the season, but now he finds himself hitting lower in the order. Hitting .244, 7 home runs, 43 RBIs on the season. Remember, suffered that serious foot injury late last year, played through it as best he could in October. And nobody on the Cardinals is saying he's still hurt, but for whatever the reason, he just hasn't swung the bat like he did the last couple of years.
You know, Dan, you wonder if that hitting with that bad ankle like he did last year in the World Series against Boston when he got a chance to DH, you wonder if he got into some bad habits because of that, and once you get into bad habits, sometimes it's hard to get out of them. It's his left ankle that he hurt, and I'm sure he had to change his approach last year to either no stride or try to land a little softer, not as much torque on that bottom half when you're swinging. And a lot of people think he's more arm swinging this year, but he hit that one well.
Laces this one up the alley in left center, and it'll get to the wall and it bounces. Peralta heads around third and is heading home. He will score without a throw as the Cardinals tie it.
Well, Craig had a very aggressive pass at the first strike that Clayton Kershaw threw to him, and this is one of those pitches where Kershaw, he throw one really bad curveball to Adams and one really good one to strike him out, and this one here stays right up in the middle of the zone. I don't care how good a stuff you has, when you pitch it, when that curveball's up in the strike zone, you're asking for it to get hurt. But look at that firm front side that he's hitting off that injured ankle from last year, and that's, if you're Mike Matheny, you're really pleased with that swing by Alan Craig.
Mark Ellis takes a strike. Ellis getting a start at second base tonight. Again, another right-handed bat. Colton Wong, the left-handed bat on the bench against Kershaw. A 1-1 tie.
I guess one wasn't enough. What's he want?
Kershaw's only given up 5 earned runs in his last 8 starts coming into this one. Has won the Cy Young twice, has led the majors in ERA each of the last 3 years. Entering this start tonight, he was just short of the number of innings needed to qualify for the ERA title and everything and so forth, but he will after this start. And obviously, if he stays healthy, he'll have more than enough innings. Missed April with the muscle injury behind his shoulder. Doesn't have as great command this inning that we normally see from him. 2 balls and a strike. Now the count on Ellis.
And it seems like the pitching out of the stretches, he hasn't been able to command his pitches as well.
He's not used to pitching out of the stretch. He hasn't done it very much the last 8 starts.
Not accustomed to it, that's for sure.
Tricky hop. Uribe's got it. Runner back. Fire to first. 2 down. But you look at some of the career accomplishments and you almost forget this guy's 26 years old.
Yeah, you know, it's that whole thing where they say, you know, he hasn't reached his peak yet. Like, you know, 27 to 32 is when a major league player reaches his peak. And if that's the case, we got a lot to look forward to. The people in Southern California have a lot to look forward to with he and Mike Trout.
Signed that mega deal to stay with the Dodgers for a long time. A lot of money, but you know, certainly appears it's very early, but in every respect to be money well spent. The Dodgers certainly not afraid to throw the money around with by far the largest payroll in baseball. Fouled off by Tony Cruz, who has stepped into the limelight, if you will, here in St. Louis after the injury to Yadier Molina, the torn thumb ligament, surgery for Molina. And the Cardinals are without him into September and maybe longer than that. So Cruz, who's been the backup here for 3 years now, instead of playing maybe once a week, is now looking at about 5 games a week. And the Cardinals have always spoken highly of him, especially his ability to swing the bat. There's a check swing foul off, and the count is 0-2. But there's just no replacing a guy like Yadier Molina.
Well, no, and not only, you know, the defensive part, the throwing part, which Yadier is arguably the best in baseball at, but the leadership qualities that he has, the way he moves the defense around, the way he works with his pitchers. And yeah, you don't replace him. You just hope Tony Cruz, like a backup quarterback, you just do what we ask you to do, and that's all. Don't try to do too much.
And it was George Contreras picked up to be Cruz's backup after the Molina injury.
It's a tough situation for Cruz, hitting 8th, and I know Carlos Martinez hitting over 270, but you know, sometimes you get that undecided, especially with a guy with the stuff of Clayton Kershaw. Is he pitching to me or is he pitching around me?
And he got a piece of that slider. Big crowd here in Busch Stadium on this nice night as the Cardinals look for a sweep.
Nothing new there.
Yeah. And this is actually across the street. This is a rooftop. This is where the old Busch Stadium was when they built this one. That became a parking lot, and then this sprung up in the off-season this year before the season started.
And not many newer ballparks can add more seats whenever they feel the need to, but as you can see, I don't think there's an empty seat in this place.
And it's been a long inning for Kershaw. Curveball stays high.
Very inconsistent with that curveball. A couple left up in the zone. The one to Alan Craig that he hit for the double. Threw one over the head of Matt Adams before he threw a nasty one to strike him out. Got to go slider here. Get something down in the zone. See if it can get cruised over swing.
Fastball misses away. He's searching for it right now.
Yeah, he called A.J. Ellis out to talk to him. Look, he was giving that hand signal like, I can't get this slider down and in anymore. Or this inning, he hasn't been able to. I think he's going to try right here.
Back to the fastball. Dodgers in Pittsburgh for a 3-game series beginning tomorrow. Off day Thursday, then a 3-game series in San Francisco next weekend. We'll have the Dodgers and Giants for you a week from tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. This is an important stretch for LA. And a bouncer to third. Another tricky hop by Uribe, and the veteran throws him out to end the inning. But the Cardinals have tied it. Alan Craig lining one up the alley at left center for an RBI double, and it's 1-1 at the end of 2. Welcome back to Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Tied at 1, Dodgers, Cardinals, as we go to the third here in St. Louis. Each team scoring a run in the second inning. And Clayton Kershaw is going to lead it off. He's done a nice job swinging the bat this year. 7 for 31. That's a .226 average. And a fastball for a strike.
It's a pitcher's hitting. First ball, I'm going to just throw it over at 93. Now that might go up a hair.
Where everything Martinez throws seems to move down and in, laterally away, down and away, and everything's 93 plus.
And you wonder when there's going to be a time where they just say, okay, I'm going to set down the middle and you just throw it and let the natural movement take it where it goes. 3 shakeoffs.
Just low. On deck, leadoff hitter D. Gordon.
He might have shook off Cruz in that one pitch more than they've shook off Yadier Molina the whole year.
And he walks Kershaw. A lot more Major League action coming your way this week. Tomorrow night, it is Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The Texas Rangers in New York to take on the Yankees. The Yankees coming off a weekend sweep of Cincinnati. The Giants are in Philadelphia. Wednesday Night Baseball presented by T-Mobile. And then we'll be in San Francisco as the Giants host the Dodgers 1 week from tonight. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. All games also available on Watch ESPN. You look at the races around the National League. Atlanta and Washington atop the East. Giants and Dodgers atop the West. St. Louis now leading Milwaukee by a half game in the Central. And with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati not far behind. I don't know that anybody's winning 95 games in the National League, but it's going to be wild in the second half.
It's going to be an interesting division. The Central is with 4 teams, like you said, right there. And I think there's a big move by 1 or 2 of those teams that could put them over the edge.
Little chopper by Gordon, and Adams will put the tag on him eventually as Kershaw makes his way to second.
That'd be a good race. D. Gordon running backwards against Matt Adams.
Well, Adams presented a pretty formidable roadblock in terms of Gordon getting around him. It's
a long way to run around. Yeah. He's a big fella, and he's agile. I'm joking about the backwards foot race against him, but yeah, I mean, you see Adams right there. Now he's got it. That's really upsetting to a first baseman. You're making me do more than what is, and you're going to be out. Just let me tag you and get out of here.
And his defense has been considered very good here in St. Louis. You know, obviously, when you saw him come up last year and start swinging the bat, you just thought about the thunder in the bat, get his bat in the lineup somehow. But they've been pleased with his defense at first this year. Here's Hanley Ramirez. And a little first pitch slider over the outside edge, 0-1. Ramirez grounded out his first time up. Don Mattingly saying at this point, the shoulder is what the shoulder is, and Ramirez wants to play. And they're going to ride him as much as they can and hope he can stay healthy through the second half. Fastball just outside at 99. 2 balls and a strike on Ramirez.
Well, and that's the thing they're going to miss, Dan. Hey, look, is Hanley Ramirez the greatest shortstop in baseball fielding wise? No, he's not. He gets and because of the shoulder, he gets replaced defensively if they have a lead late in the game. But that's not what you're going to miss with Hanley Ramirez as his defense. You're going to miss this presence in the middle of the lineup. You know, not many shortstop hit second, third, fourth, anywhere in there. And even with the bad shoulder, he's still a presence.
Well, when they went on that 42-8 run last year, it coincided to a certain extent with Puig coming up from the minors, and Puig was sensational. But if you look at the numbers during that 50-game stretch, this guy was even better. This guy carried them to a certain extent as they made that historic run last year.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing to do with the caliber of players that they thought they had going into last season. But you're right, Hanley, when he came up, and they credited a lot to the World Baseball Classic, winning it with the Dominican team. Of course, that's how he hurt his thumb.
Second walk given up this inning by Carlos Martinez.
But they said Don Mattingly told us he came back a different player. He came back, a guy that's like, okay, this winning thing's really fun, and that's all he cared about.
So 2 on with a 1 out for Adrian Gonzalez, who hit a fly ball to left field his first time up. Great April for Gonzalez, has not produced nearly as much May, June, and into July, but still 4th in the National League with 60 RBIs.
I don't think I ever recall Adrian Gonzalez having 2 at-bats and swinging at the first pitch both times. And you know, the first time up it was a strike he swung at. That one there, you know, down in the zone, out of the strike zone. I love the fact that guys are aggressive, but you know, early, especially the first pitch, you know, be aggressive in the zone. That was out of the zone. Now he's behind with a guy with great stuff, and that's, you're asking a lot now.
Liner to center. On comes Burgess to make the catch.
It's a two-seam runner, but look at Peter Borges. Now, this is what the Cardinals do love about him. He is one of the best defensive center fielders, if not the best. I mean, he was the reason why Mike Trout was in left field for a lot of last season. Peter Borges can go get him, but you know, give Clayton Kershaw, pitcher, great credit. Great base running. He went about a third of the way to third base. He read the ball off the bat. He saw Borges breaking on it. Didn't get doubled up.
So 2 on, 2 out now, and the batter is Matt Kemp, who struck out his first time up. Kemp with serious ankle and shoulder injuries and eventually surgeries the last couple of years. 2011, he had a monster season. Easily could have won the MVP. Finished runner-up to Ryan Braun. 39 homers, 126 RBIs, 40 steals. He was as good a player as there was in baseball 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, without question. Just everything. The power, the speed, the, you know, hitting for average. But you know, injuries will do this to you in this game. And you know, once you have a shoulder injury, you know, your first instinct is, will it ever be right? Will I ever have the same bat speed? Can I catch up to a good fastball anymore? Then you find yourself cheating to try to get to that fastball, and you leave yourself susceptible to every other off-speed pitch in the pitcher's arsenal.
And the problem for the Dodgers is they have a lot of outfielders, specifically underproducing or producing less than they thought they would, and they're signed to mega contracts. How do you trade these guys? How do you remove the glut of outfielders? Puig's going to be in there when healthy every day, obviously. They got a kid in the minors, Jock Peterson, they'd love to bring up and see what he can do, but they've got nowhere to play him. But they can't move any of these guys.
Well, they can if they take the money. If they, I mean, they have to pay it. You saw what the Braves did. They're one of the more least likely teams to just eat a contract. And here's what these guys are owed and for how long they're owed it for. And like you said, you know, can you trade anyone? Will a team take that production and salary? No. But a team might take one of those players if the Dodgers eat most of the money. Now, you know, ownership is willing to do whatever they can. You know, you hear they're in the David Price sweepstakes. Well, if they get David Price, they're going to have to pay him an exorbitant amount of money. So, will they be willing to eat one of these contracts to get rid of one or two of these guys? Well, he's late on the fastball and ahead of the breaking ball, so he got anywhere he can go with this pitch.
Bounces it in, full count. Runners will be on the move. Martinez has not been able to get that deep into the ball game in his starts. Has walked a few too many. Has thrown a lot of pitches, and it's getting a little bit elevated early here tonight.
And if I'm Matt Kemp, I'm looking for something hard and I'm going to start it early. And if he throws a slider for a strike, tip your cap to it.
And Kemp requests time. Tony Cruz will go to the mound to talk to Martinez. What kind of a sense do you get Yadier Molina has, even though he's hurt, on Cruz and pitch sequences and so forth?
Well, we talked to Mike Matheny about it, and he said, look, Yadier's, we've heard differing stories that Yadier's on Tony Cruz every day, and, Mike Matheny kind of downplayed that. He said, yes, Yadier's helped him, but he's helped him even when Yadier was healthy with how to go about the business of pitching.
Base hit into left field. Kershaw around third and will come in to score as Kemp drives in a run to give the Dodgers the lead.
Well, he throws the slider right here to 3-2 pitch. See the slider grip, you see the spin on the baseball, but it's elevated, and even though it's away, elevated, you can still get your bat to it. If the ball's down in the strike zone, and you see it, Matt Kemp didn't hit that ball good. He hit it off the end of the bat because he's looking for something hard off a guy who throws 100 miles an hour. Instead, he gets that slider elevated, he hits it in the left field, and with a 3-2 count, Kershaw off on the first movement by Martinez and scores easily on that play. You got a feeling Kershaw might just say, okay, I've had enough.
There's Derek Lilliquist, pitching coach. Quick trip to the mound to talk to Martinez. The batter now is Ethier, tripled and scored the Dodger run back in the second.
That's the message from Derek Lilliquist. Okay, look, it's 2-1. If you give up a double here to Ethier and 2 more runs scored, this game could be over. We need this out right here. Bear down, get this third out, and let's get back in here and try to score another one.
And it started with the walks this inning for Martinez. He walked Kershaw to begin the inning, and an out later walked Hanley Ramirez.
Adrian Gonzalez sitting right there thinking, I'm glad I don't have to hit off that guy.
In the side with a fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. No Adam Wainwright in this series for the Cardinals. The Cardinals taking the opportunity to push Wainwright back a little bit, give him some extra time. He will pitch on Tuesday. It lines him up for a game against Milwaukee a little bit later on this month. And Mike Matheny saying, they're going to ride Wainwright as hard as they can the rest of the way. So if they can give him a little bit of an extra break in and around the All-Star break, they will do it. Base hit center field. Ramirez around third, and he will come in to score. 3-1 Dodgers.
Well, it's an outburst by the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you're getting it from guys who have been struggling. Matt Kemp, Andre Ethier. Ethier's second hit of the game at 97 with great movement, but that's Andre Ethier's swing right there. He has to be able to do that with a pitch down and away, shoot it up the middle or the other way. And again, 2 outs, you get a good jump off second base, score rather easily on that play. Hanley looks like there's something else hurting. He looked like he's limping coming across home plate.
Here's Van Slyke.
Maybe this is the outfield the Dodgers needed. Puig's only hitting 3-something. Yeah, he's expendable.
Well, you wonder what kind of numbers Van Slyke would put up as Puig tries to cool off Ramirez a little bit. You wonder what kind of numbers Van Slyke would put up given the chance to play all the time. And everybody understands the situation. Veteran guys, big contracts. Coming back our way, just below us. Van Slyke's been tremendously productive against left-handed pitching. Doesn't get a chance to play every day against right-handed pitching. But if you watch him play, you got to think on an everyday basis, this is a 25 to 30 home run guy.
Well, yeah, he's big, he's long, and when he does hit them, they go far. you know, can he hit righties consistently enough to be an everyday center fielder?
Play first base too. He's played first, left, center, and right.
Yeah, and that might be the thing. You know, does it come to a point where okay, Puig's our right fielder, Kemp's our left fielder, and we're going to platoon Van Slyke and Ethier?
Dad Andy, a coach with Seattle right now. Well, the Mariners had a tough one. They were looking for a big win over the Angels, and the Angels got 2 in the bottom of the 9th off Fernando Rodney, who had come into the game in the 8th inning as the Angels pulled out a 6-5 win. That division's kind of fun right now too.
Yeah, you can't ask a closer to try to get 5 outs. Come on.
That'll end the inning. That'll end the inning. Not before, though, the Dodgers get 2. Driven in by Kemp and Ethier. Kershaw's got the lead back. Dodgers now have a 3-1 lead on the Cardinals going to the bottom of the 3rd. ESPN's 30 for 30 series continues Tuesday on ESPN. And Greg LeMond is the first American to win the Tour de France. And LeMond looks back at the pivotal 1986 Tour and his rivalry with friend, teammate, mentor, and reigning Tour champion Bernard the Badger Hinault. 30 for 30, slaying the Badger, presented by Infinity Tuesday at 8 on ESPN. Clayton Kershaw had a pitch in the last inning that he was wondering about. It was called the ball. This is the pitch to Peralta right there, and he went up and asked Ed Hickox about it after the inning.
Is that 0-2 to Peralta, up or away?
Out.
Really?
Yeah. Just out, baby.
So you can get away with that. You can respectfully approach an umpire on your way off the field and say, hey, where was that pitch?
Well, most umpires, yeah. But, you know, look, Clayton Kershaw's not a guy that's known to complain and throw fits out on the mound and show up umpires. So, yes, he can ask a pitcher, and that's normal. A lot of pitchers do ask after an inning, hey, where was that pitch to so-and-so? And they'll give you an honest answer. And according to K-Zone, it was a ball.
Just outside. 1 ball, 1 strike on Carlos Martinez.
Pretty good hack right there. I mean, guy's been in the bullpen the start of his young major league career. Just a handful of starts, 6 coming into this game, and he's hitting 273. So he got a little idea how to swing it. Look, he's got the thumb guard on. I mean, he's got it all working.
Swings and misses through the curveball. Let's go down to Buster.
Guys, there's actually been a lot of conversation within the Dodgers organization about that center field prospect, Jock Peterson. Now, the people who want him on the major league team within the organization because of his defense, because of his energy, But so far, they're not ready to make that move. And keep in mind, Jock Peterson is one of the guys that the Tampa Bay Rays are focusing on as they're having this discussion with multiple teams about David Price. I talked with one executive today who told me what it's going to come down to. And the expectation is that later in the week, the Rays are basically going to declare themselves as to whether or not to trade Price. It all comes down to who's going to be more aggressive, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, or the Mariners.
No Angels in that, Buster? Angels not in discussions potentially for Price?
The person I spoke with today said, look, here's the deal with the Rays. That they're looking for a high-end prospect, at least one, and they're asking for, of course, a boatload to make this deal happen. And the Angels are not perceived to have the high-end prospect that any one of those other three teams have.
And back-to-back strikeouts as Kershaw gets Carpenter. The thing you wonder about David Price before you even, and Buster said, the Rays will make a decision. They won again today. I mean, they just don't lose right now. They're only 7.5 out of first in the American League East. The Orioles lost today. And with Seattle, the team that's currently in the second wild card position, losing, Tampa Bay right now is 6 games out of the wild card spot.
Yeah, and that's the toughest thing for a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, who aren't going to go out and sign big-name free agents to help their team, or when their players are eligible or close to eligible to free agency, sign them to a long-term deal and keep them. Now, they did with Longoria. Archer got a nice deal, but, those are everyday. Well, Longoria is an everyday player who you want to keep in that lineup every day because he's the main cog in that offense. But, when do they have to decide? And this is what's tough about having 2 wild cards now. Is GMs now have to figure out, okay, are we in it or are we not? Can we get a wild card or can we not? And if so, now we have to start making some deals.
Well, they got another 10 days or so to decide.
Yeah, and what if they go 6-4 and Baltimore goes 4-6 and
they're 5 out or something?
Yeah, and then what?
5 out with 2 months to go.
Yeah, but is that reality or is that, can we do this?
Well, they've done it before, right?
That's exactly right. And that's the thing. They thought coming out, and we all thought, a lot of us thought coming out of spring training, they were the best team in this division. Maybe now they're thinking, okay, now we're starting to play like we're the best team in the division.
Yankees swept Cincinnati over the weekend. They're 3 out in the East. Toronto took 2 out of 3 from Texas. They're 3 out. Baltimore lost 2 out of 3 against Oakland, and now they got to play the Angels and Mariners. This is a really tough stretch for the Orioles over the next couple of weeks. And Kershaw's upset. He's thrown a good curveball and a bad curveball this game. He hasn't been able to consistently get it in the strike zone.
Well, that's why you should just throw this slider right here and get him to swing over top of it. Come on.
That's cool. Koufax jersey, a Kershaw jersey.
Huh.
And he strikes out the side. 5 through 3 for Kershaw in possession of a 3-1 lead. Welcome back to St. Louis. We go to the top of the fourth. The Dodgers lead the Cardinals 3-1. Juan Uribe, the batter, fouls one off against Carlos Martinez as we bring in from the Cardinals dugout Lance Lynn, 11-6 on the season, a 3.13 ERA. Lance, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Tell us a little bit about, we sit up here and watch the stuff that Carlos Martinez has and the way his ball moves and 99-mile-an-hour fastballs. This ball's popped up back of the plate, and Cruz will not have a play. Give us your perspective up close on Carlos Martinez.
I mean, you got a young kid with fantastic stuff, and every day he's getting better. He's always trying to learn, and he's always trying to become the great pitcher that he can be. So with the stuff and the desire to be good, it should be fun to watch him over the year.
Well, it's already started with you with the seeds now, and I'm sure there'll be some water or something else being thrown on you. So, but thanks for joining us, Lance. We have a colleague that does football at ESPN, Chris Carter, who his coach said all he does is catch touchdowns, so they traded him. All you do is win. How come you don't get any respect?
I don't know, but it's part of it. You don't worry what people say. You just go out there and try to do your job and help your team win every time you get a chance.
Well, the only guy who's won more games in the National League the last 3 years is Adam Wainwright. He's got 45, and you've got 44. Tell us what you've learned from Wainwright over the last 3 years.
Just do whatever you can to win. Some nights you don't have your best stuff, but if you last longer than their starter and give up less runs than them, you got a chance to win, and that's what it's all about. And when it comes down to the end of the season, if our team has more wins than the other teams in our division or other teams in baseball, we got a good shot, and that's that's what we work for every year.
What was it like, Lance, over the last year or two when Martinez and Waka and Rosenthal and Kelly and Miller, all these guys started showing up, so many good young arms all at once?
It's exciting when you just keep inserting guys with great stuff. It makes it fun to come to the ballpark, because you're going to go through times when you have injuries, and that's part of the game. But we have the ability to bring guys up that are ready and have great stuff, and it's worked out well for us.
And Lance, all these young pitchers have pretty much bought into the Cardinal way. A lot of them want to be starting pitchers, but they're best suited and needed in the bullpen, and you don't hear complaints.
Yeah, everyone wants to start or wants that opportunity, but they know that if they have the ability to be here and help the team win, that's the only thing that matters. And that's something that's preached in the minor leagues. Do everything you can to be the best pitcher you can, but when it's all said and done, winning's fun. And if you come up here and you win, it makes things a lot easier.
A.J. Ellis, the Dodger catcher, is the batter. At first, Juan Uribe, nobody out on the top of the fourth. And the Dodgers leading the Cardinals 3-1. The Cardinals winning the first 2 games of the series. As that pitch runs inside. When you look at the division you're in, Lance, and really 4 teams pretty much neck and neck with each other right now, how do you size it up?
It makes it fun. I mean, what a second half this is going to be with 4 teams, all just right there nipping at each other, and we got a lot of games against each other. So that's going to make an interesting second half, and that's why you play the game. You want to play the best and beat the best, and we got a pretty good division here. It should be exciting.
Pop up on the infield for the first out. I think if you ask players, or maybe even more so the fans of the other 3 teams, Lance, they'd all say their #1 rival is the Cardinals, or the team they'd most like to knock off is the Cardinals. Do you guys, of the other 3, is there a #1 rival for you guys right now?
Well, we have a tendency to think that whatever team we're playing that day is our biggest rival. But that's that's because we want to win. Win one game at a time, take it one game at a time. So if we stick to that motto and do everything we can to win that night, that's the only thing that matters.
Hey, Lance, what's with the injury to Yadier Molina and now Tony Cruz being the catcher, and Tony's been here a while, but is there that much of a difference pitching between the two for the 2 of them?
Well, you look at comparing Yadier to anybody ever to play the game. Yadier's, in my opinion, going to go down as one of the best catchers of all time. So it does no justice to compare anyone to him. But Tony does such a great job in between his appearances when Yadi is healthy, to be down in the bullpen catching us, and so we always have that that feeling where he knows exactly what we're trying to do and what we're about, because he's there every day trying to figure out, hey, when I get my opportunity to play, I know what these guys want to do and how they go about attacking hitters, so it makes it easy.
Tell us who the guy was who was messing with you early, because we can get him on next time we're here for Sunday night, and then you can return the favor.
Descalzo thinks he's a funny guy. He's always always down here at the end of the dugout throwing seeds and things of that nature.
All right, we'll line him up. Here's D. Gordon with 2 outs and a runner at first. Dodgers up 3-1. You know, Lance, we get a chance to come here often, more often than we go to most places, and it's got to be special for a ball player to know there are going to be 45,000 people here just about every time you come to the ballpark.
I'd say that's one of the best things about being a Cardinal. You know, it doesn't matter what day of week is, what time the game is, you're going to look at a full stadium every time, and that makes it fun to come to the ballpark, fun to compete, knowing that your city's behind you like this, and you know, there's no better fans in baseball.
Hey, Lance, the redundancy of pitchers fielding practice in spring training just paid off right there for Carlos Martinez, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a guy that I think played shortstop his whole entire life, and then they said, hey, you throw 100, go step on the mound. So he knows what he's doing. He's a really good athlete.
How about this? Kershaw running on the play. Ball skips away from Cruz, and Kershaw's into second.
Well, it was the same pattern for Carlos Martinez. One look and go home, one look, go home. So why not on the third pitch take off? It's a straight steal. He's not even looking. He's not even waiting for contact. I guess he didn't have that one in the number book filled up in the column.
So he's into scoring position with 2 down. And a 2-1 count on Gordon, who was struck out and grounded out. And a bouncer over the mound. Got to hurry. And they don't get him. The speed of Gordon coming into play, and infield hit, runners on the corners. Lance, you know, you talked about playing here in St. Louis. You were born in Indiana, and you went to school at Ole Miss. Who'd you grow up a fan of? What team?
I actually did grow up a Cardinals fan. Being in Indianapolis, there's about 3 or 4 different teams you can you root for. You got the Chicago teams, the Reds, and then St. Louis over here. And some people from Northern go Detroit and Cleveland, but I was in that area where you were either a Cubs fan or Cardinals fan, so there was always that rivalry with kids in the town.
And who was as a kid growing up watching pitchers, who was your guy?
I was always a Kurt Schilling or a Roger Clemens fan. I just loved the way that those guys competed, and they went right after hitters with their fastball, and that's something that I enjoy doing myself.
Well, I loved a quote that you had after your last start. You were in a big spot, and you said, everybody knows what I'm going to do. Here it is, try to hit it. And I can't remember who the batter was. You can tell me, but you struck him out with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah, when it comes time, you just got to say, here's my best pitch, and you're either going to hit it or you're not. And I was going to win or lose with that pitch no matter what. Jason Mott now up in the pen for the Cardinals. The batter, Hanley Ramirez, a ground out and a walk. And he gets nailed by Martinez. Hanley's not happy. Hopefully not shaken up, and the bases are loaded.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone get hit by a pitch and was happy, but that's it's not like that's a 85-mile-an-hour little two-seamer. That's 97, hit him in the shoulder.
And the crowd here in St. Louis giving him a nice ovation as he gets back to his feet. Hey, Lance, we want to thank you for joining us. Best of luck the rest of the way. Congratulations on a great season so far, and good luck to the Cardinals.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thank you. Lance Lynn of the St. Louis Cardinals, an 11-game winner already this season, as we take another look at a fastball that just got away from Carlos Martinez, and fortunately for Hanley Ramirez, got him in the shoulder and not in the head. miles an hour.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not intentional at all. You got first and third. Their top RBI guy coming up in Adrian Gonzalez. It's not like you're going to hit Hanley on purpose right there. But that's the danger zone. When you get up in that area, even though it's not on purpose, the Dodgers aren't happy with that pitch. And look, Kershaw's not going to throw at someone to get back and retaliate. But you're not happy with that pitch up that high in the strike zone. But by no means was Martinez trying to hit him.
Here's Adrian Gonzalez 0 for 2. Bases loaded. 2 outs, trying to break it open here in the 4th. And a fly ball to left field. Inning over. They leave him loaded. Matt Holliday will lead it off when we come back. Welcome back to St. Louis. We go to the bottom of the fourth. Dodgers 3, Cardinals 1. In between innings, a little FaceTime as Buster Olney visited with Don Manning.
Don, we just saw Hanley Ramirez hit by a pitch. What did he say when he went out there?
I think it didn't look like it got him that bad. Got him up on the shoulder. That's it.
That was Clayton Kershaw's first career stolen base. Where did that come from?
I don't know. Davey must have seen something, but I know he got off along with him over there. Not one of those things we really want to do very often unless they're just going to absolutely give it to us.
Second time through the lineup, you got some hits from Kemp, from Ethier. What did you see in their at-bats?
Oh, good. Tonight the difference has been we've got a couple of key hits when we needed them. Rebate drops the one in there in the first, and then Matt gets the key hit, then Andre gets the hit for us. So those are the kind of things we need to see.
Don, thanks.
And that's what Don Mattingly talked about before the game when we visited with him. He says, you know what, somebody gets a big hit, and then the next guy does, and it gets contagious, and people start feeling a little bit better about things, and he believes that's how things can change.
And look, for all intents and purposes, this offense for the Dodgers has a chance to be, one of the more.
Oh boy! Warnings. A.J. Ellis trying to keep Matt Holliday calm as he walks him down to first.
Well, I don't understand that. The situation didn't dictate for Martinez to throw at anyone. He jammed Hanley his first time off. He walked him his second, and then here's the first pitch, and look, come on. You know what? Clayton Kershaw is the best pitcher in baseball, and I understand you want to protect your teammate. If that's not intentional, Dan, then there's never been an intentional pitch thrown at any hitter. He has too good a command. What 7 walks, 8 walks on the season, and he throws one at the behind of Matt Holliday. And I understand you want to protect your guys, and you've been struggling playing the game, offensively, and your team's starting to gel, and the last thing you want to do is see another guy get hit by a pitch, because Puig got hit last night, but I think that was uncalled for, and now he gets another play ball.
Ooh, and did you see Holliday go in hard to second?
Well, that's the risk you run with a guy who can run like Holliday and is built like a linebacker like he is. You hit him with a pitch and you think it's intentional, which for all intents and purposes it was, and watch him. He is dialed in on Hanley Ramirez and he's going after him. And he can reach the base, so it's a clean slide, but Hanley Ramirez is lucky that D. Gordon got him that ball quick enough so he can get over top of Matt Holliday. If there's one little bobble in D. Gordon right there, Hanley Ramirez got more issues than just getting hit by a pitch.
So 2 outs, nobody on the batter is Matt Adams. I don't think anybody on the Dodgers side would say they felt Carlos Martinez intentionally hit Hanley Ramirez. It was clear that he did not intend to do that.
No, and for Kershaw to come out the first pitch and throw a pitch, and look, it hit him in a good spot. You can say what you want, but and again, look, protecting your players understandably, but I don't think that was a situation right there where protection was warranted.
Now Adams rips one into right center field, and it's down. Halfway to second, puts the brakes on, and heads back to first with a long single.
Well, this ball left the bat here by Matt Adams. I thought for sure this was going to be a double, but I don't know if there's just. And this is a play where, you look at the outfielder, they know no one can catch it, and so there's no need for communication right here. And when Van Slyke looks, he sees Ethier has the best chance of cutting that ball off. There's really no need for communication. I thought that was a double all the way, but they closed on that pretty good.
Ramirez with a long throw, and he'll get Craig to end the inning. Only 6 pitches, I think, thrown by Kershaw, but an eventful inning here in St. Louis. Welcome back to St. Louis. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Dodgers lead the Cardinals 3-1. Benches have been warned after a couple of batters were hit earlier in this game. Hanley Ramirez of the Dodgers hit, and then Clayton Kershaw, first pitch next inning, drilled Matt Holliday. Carlos Martinez's night ends after only 4 innings. Rookie Jason Mott's out of the bullpen.
And I'm sure this is a lot of, the fact that Carlos Martinez didn't have great command, and with 3, 4 days, 5 days off for the All-Star break now, whatever it is, getting pitchers work is, in a game like this, is key.
Mott hasn't pitched in a week as he comes into this game. Matt Kemp a strikeout and an RBI single, and another base hit as he flares one into right center. Between innings, Buster Olney with Cardinal manager Mike Matheny.
Mike, what did you see in Carlos Martinez tonight?
Yeah, he came out throwing the ball well, had a good rhythm going. It looked like he had a nice feel for his fastball, and then he got out of whack, and just a matter of his timing being right, and struggling a little bit to get a feel for his secondary pitches, through a couple and some head counts, and hung him a little bit. And this is a good offense. They're going to make you pay.
What'd you make of Holiday being hit and both teams being warned?
Don't know how to respond to that, except the umpires got to make calls they have to make. We're going to pitch inside. They're going to pitch inside. You know how it goes.
Mike, thanks.
And that's usually how it goes. One thing to keep in mind, too, not only did Ramirez get hit tonight, Ramirez was drilled by Joe Kelly in the NLCS last year, suffered the rib injury, and was really never a big factor. Again, nobody's saying that tonight was intentional, but it may just be an accumulation of perceived offenses that, on the part of the Cardinals, in the minds of the Dodgers, that led to the retribution.
Yeah, and up around the head too. I know it hit him in the shoulder, but when you're throwing that hard and that high, you're putting your batter in a very dangerous situation. And luckily Hanley just got hit in the shoulder and he was able to remain in the game. But and I understand, that's like I said, I understand why Kershaw did what he did, kind of.
They got him. Kemp picked off.
Well, he got him without any question, and you see Matt Kemp right there. Must have had the hit and run on or a steal, and he took that first jab step like he was going towards second and couldn't recover.
Ethier with a sharp ground ball to second, and just like that, 2 down. So Kemp is picked off by Jason Mott, who came on in relief this inning for Carlos Martinez. Martinez, 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, all earned. Walked 2, hit 1, struck out 4. Early on, it looked like he might have a special night. He got off to a great start very early in this game, but eventually the pitch count climbed, his control suffered, and he only gets through 4. Van Slyke has struck out twice.
And get back to the Kershaw hitting Matt Holliday. It could have been one of those things where Kershaw's like, and the Dodgers are like, you know what? We know that wasn't on purpose, the pitch you threw to Hanley, but 97, 98 up by the head, even though it hit him in the shoulder, we're not going to stand for that. Figure out a way to throw it closer or lower if you're going to hit someone, and figure out a way to throw it across the plate. If not, then we're going to have to take care of our business. So I understand the Dodgers' point on this, and Kershaw, for hitting Matt Holliday, and he did it in the right way.
In the air to right center, room for Borges. Inning over. 3-1, Dodgers continue to lead here at Busch. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, brought to you by Taco Bell. Bottom of the fifth inning here at Busch Stadium. The Dodgers trying to salvage the final game of this three-game series. And they lead the Cardinals 3-1. As Kershaw misses high ball one to Mark Ellis. 7-8-9. Ellis, Cruz, and then probably a pinch hitter for the Cardinals after the inning by Mott. Pitcher spot due up third. Activity in the Cardinal pen. Ellis grounded out his first time up. And he just did get in on his hands. Fly ball to left, one down.
Okay, Clayton Kershaw has a unique delivery, and you see the hands up. When the hands come up, the leg comes up. But watch how his left foot or his right foot goes straight down to the ground. You think he's going to land, then all of a sudden it comes back up a little bit and goes back, and now he's in that beautiful power position, pushing off that back leg, the drop and drive sort of pitcher. But when I watch him in his warm-ups and even in his game delivery, and his front foot hits in the same spot every single time and on every pitch he throws, and it's just amazing how he can look at. There's his landing spot right there. You see another one around it. You see any other dirt kicked up anywhere? I mean, his foot lands in that same spot, and that's what those beautiful pitchers call repeated delivery.
Liner to right, and back goes Ethier, 2 down. Kershaw doing a lot of work in the offseason for a number of years with Skip Johnson, the University of Texas pitching coach, who himself pitched in college. Kershaw has worked with him every offseason since his senior year in high school. And a guy who a number of major league pitchers work with Johnson and say that he's just got a handle on mechanics unlike just about anybody else.
Well, and it's obvious he doesn't teach robots, because if he did, Clayton Kershaw wouldn't have the delivery that he has. You work with their strengths, and you try to help along the weaknesses. And not that Kershaw had many weaknesses, but
there's Oscar Taveras pinch hitting. Homer Bailey's another guy who does a lot of work with Skip Johnson.
And again, a completely different pitcher than Clayton Kershaw.
Shelby Miller will be the next Cardinal pitcher tonight. Taveras, as you probably know, as folks in St. Louis certainly know, a big-time prospect, a guy who they think is going to hit and hit for power. He has not hit a whole lot, has had kind of sporadic playing time and a couple of stints with the Cardinals. So here's an easy assignment. Come off the bench and pinch hit against Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, but at least it's the fifth inning. He's probably not as stiff as he would have been if it was in the eighth or ninth. But and they might get to that eighth and ninth. Look at the bottom of the fifth inning, 2 outs, only 63 pitches for Kershaw. And Don Mattingly was telling us before the game, before you look up, you're looking at the other team thinking, okay, you got 9 innings of him tonight because you're swinging early.
Sliders swung on and missed, 2-2. In this ballpark in Game 6 of the NLCS, the Cardinals defeated Kershaw, hit him hard, won the series that night. There's a pop-up, and it should be playable. Who wants it? It'll be Uribe, and that'll end the inning. 5 in the books in St. Louis. Dodgers 3, Cardinals 1. right, fellas, thank you. Back here at Busch Stadium, the third pitcher of the night for St. Louis is right-hander Shelby Miller. And yes, he is a starter for the Cardinals, but they've got 3 off days in the next week and a half. So they've got a chance to go with a 4-man rotation right now. So Miller in the bullpen for the moment.
Yeah, and it's one of those things is, you know, Shelby Miller has been wildly inconsistent this season, and you know, maybe a stint back in the bullpen to, you know, just say, okay, you got 1 inning, go out and throw and see how you do, and maybe that'll get him straightened out.
And if you're going to be in the bullpen, that means you have to be indoctrinated into the bullpen, and that means the fall of trust off the wall down the right field bleachers where your fellow relievers tell you they're going to catch you. Unfortunately for Shelby Miller, they do.
Well, yeah, when you look around the group, there's not a lot of Gold Glovers, so I bet that trust factor probably wasn't real high when Shelby Miller climbed up on that little concrete thing out there in the stands.
Now, I think I know what the answer is going to be, but tell me why you love watching Juan Uribe hit so much.
Well, no matter where he hits it, it's a watchable 500-foot home run. It could be a pop-up to the third baseman, but he swings hard. It seems like he's comfortable in the clutch. You know, he's not one of those guys that's going to, you know, just chase balls out of the zone and swing at anything that comes up there. I mean, he has an idea, and you know, you talk to players around baseball, and they say he's a great guy in the clubhouse to have on a team.
He gets his money's worth. Tony Cruz appears to be okay. He got the worst of that foul ball.
It took him 3 or 4 years to get in the lineup every day. He ain't coming out because of this, but yeah, I'm sure Mike Matheny's cringing every time that hits. And see, are
those chips of paint coming
looks
off
like
his
it,
helmet?
yeah. So you want to be a catcher.
There's that 2-strike approach there.
Yeah, that, you know, just trying to shoot that the other way.
But you know what? It works for Pedroia. It works for Uribe. Some guys it works for. Right?
Yeah, both great high ball hitters.
Got a couple of base hits tonight. Average closing in on 300. And it'll get to 300 after that base hit. It's a 3-for-3 night for Uribe.
You know, you see the theatrics, but I mean, look at the swing. Perfect. Elbow in, back right elbow into the rib cage, extension through the zone, hitting off the stiff front leg. You know, yes, he does swing hard, and it's fun to watch when he hits a ball to you know, shallow left, and he acts like he hit it 7 miles. But you know, the bottom line is the job gets done, and that's all you can ask for. And you tell me Don Mattingly doesn't like that in his lineup.
A.J. Ellis 0 for 2.
You're hitting below 210, and that's a strike.
3 runs, 8 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, just 3 hits, no errors for the Cardinals. Could be 2. And it is. So the double play will bring Clayton Kershaw up with 2 outs, nobody on. And Kershaw on some pretty rare air, as we mentioned earlier. Kershaw getting booed right now for hitting Holiday. Cheered by the few Dodger fans who are here.
I wonder if Brandon Phillips is sitting somewhere watching this game thinking maybe he took some of the heat off of me.
That stolen base Kershaw had earlier tonight is the first of his career. Wonder how Dodger owners felt watching the $215 million investment making a break for second. In the air to left. Holiday has room. In fair territory, makes the catch. And the inning is over. still 3-1. Top of the order means Holiday bats third for the Cardinals when we come back. Bottom six, 3-1 the Dodgers over the Cardinals. As we mentioned a little bit earlier tonight, Clayton Kershaw's in a pretty exclusive group with 3 ERA titles and 2 Cy Young awards. Now keep in mind the Cy Young only came into the 50s, so Tom Seaver, Sandy Koufax, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, they've all done it. Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson. And then Johan Santana, Clayton Kershaw. Now, of the 8 8 phenomenal pitchers, of the 8, none of them achieved those milestones. 2 Cy Youngs, 3 ERA titles at an age as young as Kershaw has. He's 26 now, and he's already done it. The other 7 were all 2, 3, 4 years older when they achieved those milestones.
Kershaw hadn't been around long enough to do it in 7 or 8 years. And you know, congratulations to the Dodgers for getting him locked up for a long time.
And he could win another ERA title and another Cy Young this year. He's got competition, Wainwright, Cueto, others, but he's right there.
Yeah, and that's and maybe missing that month, even though it hurts him right now because I don't think he's qualified now for the ERA.
He will be
after
tonight.
After tonight, but maybe missing that month. God forbid, it might make him stronger down the stretch than he has been in the past. That's a guy right there that Kershaw told me, texted him this winter and said it's mine this year. I meant the Cy Young award.
Well, they can make a pretty good case for both of them. Wainwright's advantage is he's been healthier, so he's pitched more, has more innings. And the kind of run that Kershaw's on right now, you just don't know where it's going to stop. Wainwright entered the game with the best ERA in the majors. Guess who's overtaken him in the last hour and a
half? Clayton Kershaw. Am I right?
You are correct, sir.
Unbelievable. He gave up 1 tonight. I mean, it's Should be about it, right? According to the numbers. Numbers never lie, I hear.
Entering tonight, Kershaw did not have enough innings to qualify. At the moment, he does. Dodgers, by the way, hoping to get Josh Beckett back Tuesday. Bring him off the DL. He's on the DL right now with a hip problem. 2.26 ERA for Beckett this year. Full count on Carpenter.
Well, he thought he missed a pitch on Johnny Peralta, basically almost in that same location, just a little higher. But that one there looked like it caught the corner. Two-time Cy Young Award winner doesn't get it.
When Carpenter's on, he can grind out at bats with the best of them.
Well, last year in the postseason, Mike Matheny said that was he thought was the turning point of the whole series. He had a long at bat against Kershaw. You see it, 4.3 pitches per plate appearance.
And there will be a 9th pitch of the at bat.
But you look at Carpenter's swing. It's a short, not a lot of movement in his swing, not a lot of movement in his lower half or upper half, and it's not Paul Molitor, but it's Paul Molitor-like. The hands hardly ever move, just to get going through the strike zone, and that's why you can foil a lot of good pitches.
And he earns the walk. Well, let's go back to that fateful start for Kershaw's 4th start of the postseason. This was Game 6 of the NLCS, and the Cardinals jumped him. He allowed 4 runs on 5 hits in the 3rd inning. The Cardinals went on to win 9-0. Kershaw gave up 7 runs in 4 innings, and that signaled the end of the Dodgers season. Here's Borges. And another close pitch doesn't go Kershaw's way, and he caught that ball back barehanded. Is that making a statement?
Yeah,
right there,
that's a lot of emotion, plus the stare in too, and that's look, we all know he's a great competitor. You don't become as great a pitcher he is without being very competitive. You just hope it doesn't work against him on close pitches.
Slider for a strike.
And as much as the Dodgers hated to see him take off for a stolen base, bet they hate it worse. They reached out with a bare hand to catch that ball back from A.J. Ellis with his throwing hand.
Now, the funny thing is, it feels like he has struggled for his command most of the night, and here he is with a 3-1 lead in the bottom of the 6th inning. The pitch count is a little high for him, not extraordinarily high, but he's scuffling by his standards, and he's still pitching a pretty good game.
Yeah, by his standards, this is a struggle. He's been behind in counts. But he's thrown a lot of pitches that haven't been close to the strike zone. That last fastball, he threw a breaking ball to Adams that was way up and out of the zone. He's bounced a couple, but then he can do that when he feels necessary.
Is his fastball in and of itself that good, or is it because you've always got the slider and the curveball in the back of your head that makes fastball better?
It makes it better, but the thing is with him is at 94, it's like 100 because he's not afraid to throw it. He throws it with great conviction. So many guys at 94 are nibblers. They go, I can't throw it by you at 94, so they nibble and get behind. Then they wonder, well, how's my fastball get hit? Well, because you're 2-0, knucklehead, and they're throwing, they're setting on a fastball. You can't do that with him because, like this 2-2 count. Now, the last thing you want to do is to let Peter Borges get on base with his speed, and now you have 2 guys on with no outs, but he's liable to throw a slider here to strike him out.
Threw him a hard slider, but Borges got a piece. The average velocity by pitch, and one thing of note, when he first started throwing the slider, it's become a more and more important pitch for him over the years. As a rookie second-year pitcher, he was throwing at 81, 82, 83. Now he's throwing at 86, 87.
Yeah, and I firmly believe it's because he trusts it so much that now he knows he can just turn it loose, and there's no aiming to it anymore. It's just, I'm going to throw it as hard as I can, and this is where it's going to go. I don't know why you would 2-2 count. Carpenter's not a big stolen base guy. 3 stolen bases this year. Kershaw slide steps. Go figure.
Fly ball, well struck. Deep left field. And Peter Borges has tied the game. Holiday at chopper, foul ball up the third baseline. Go figure. A guy pitching as well as anybody on the planet facing a guy who doesn't play much and is hitting just over 200, and he takes him deep.
Well, and that's the pitch right there. There's that slider, but you look at the location we mentioned. He hasn't had great command on his pitches in this game tonight. We said it's been a struggle, and only to that point giving up 1 run. But I mean, that's a hanging slider. That's you let Peter Borges catch up to the pitch, knowing that a fastball might go by him, but he throws that slider, and look at Kershaw. He knew it as soon as it left the bat, the sound it made. Not that he gives up a lot, but your pitchers are very familiar with that sound.
It's the first time since May that Kershaw has given up 3 runs in a game.
Oh, Wainwright's the ERA leader again, right?
I think you're right. Guys, can we update that graphic?
It's back and forth. And Cueto might have moved up to second.
3rd home run of the year for Borges. Tie game. And that's the exact same pitch that he threw to Peralta that he wanted. When was that? Back in the 2nd inning. Fastball missing just outside.
Yeah, again, he's not been happy with the strike zone. I think the throwing over to Matt Carpenter, even though there's only 1 throw over, I tell you that his mind was somewhere else.
Look at the snap on that curveball. And Holiday strikes out. Number 6 on the night for Kershaw.
Well, 2 things Matt Holiday wanted to do in that at bat. One was either hit one hard up the middle or hit one over that Big Mac sign up in left field. Sometimes you get none of that when you throw that big breaking ball.
So now Peralta, an infield hit and a double play grounder. 3-3 tie, brand new game here at Busch. Cardinals looking for a sweep. And there's a curveball that I think Kershaw wanted that one too. Remember, it's not where it's caught, it's where it crosses the plate. Obviously called low. A tough pitch to throw, a tough pitch to hit, maybe a tough pitch to call sometimes.
Apparently, everyone misses it.
Now a slider, a line to shallow left. That's a base hit. Skips away from Kemp, but Peralta won't risk a try for second.
Matt Kemp just basically learning how to play left field, and there's a pitch to Peralta, and when it left the bat you thought gap, and Matt Kemp took a couple steps back before he started breaking in and couldn't catch up to it, and the ball drops in front of him. I'll give him credit, he did knock it down. If it gets past him any further, Van Slyke not there yet, probably would have got past him. Peralta on second base, and I bet Rick Honeycutt hasn't had to do this much.
No.
But, you know, Dan, when you watch how it's played out, he missed the call on Peralta. He ends up giving up the base hit in the first inning, or the second inning. Led off with the base hit. He eventually scored. You know, you look at the pitch he threw to Borges. He thought he got squeezed on, and Borges hits the home run. You know, it looks like, you know, do things rattle him? It's interesting. It's an interesting thing to process. Is, you know, how does he react when things don't go his way? And he's made bad pitches after things haven't gone his way.
I think you got to give a lot of credit to Carpenter too for the 10-pitch walk.
Oh, absolutely, without question.
Already 23 pitches in the inning for Kershaw, and he's gotten just one out. And he's bounced in 7-8 pitches tonight.
Yeah, and a lot of those are fastballs, and that's something you don't see on any really good starting pitcher.
Pops him up, dropping, and Kemp has it with a spectacular sprawling somersault to make it look even better. You'll be seeing that one a little bit later on tonight.
Well, you should. I mentioned on the ball that Peralta hit that he took a couple steps back. This one here, he got a pretty good, really good jump on him. There's no hesitation. Look at the eyes, though. Eyes are as wide as they can get open. He wants to see that thing the whole way in, and that is a spectacular play by Matt Kemp. And Mike Matheny's going to come out and possibly challenge a trap call. There was a lot of balls showing, but it looked like it was all surrounded by leather and no grass.
And Matheny quickly getting the word from the dugout that it was a good catch. Kemp's had his troubles out in left field. Clearly not running as quickly or as easily as he did before all the injuries, the ankle problem and so forth. And it's going to make him feel a little bit better about things. The defensive metrics do not flatter him this year. Do not flatter the Dodger outfield as a whole, especially in center and left. Here's Alan Craig. He's had a big hit tonight, an RBI double back in the second. He's also grounded out.
Well, we mentioned it. The metrics say he's 50%. He broke back on one and didn't catch it, and that one there. And you can see right there that it's all leather around the ball. Now, when he rolls over, you see the ball sticking out a little bit, but never once did it touch the grass. And I mean, it just shows you the athleticism of a big man like Matt Kemp and what he was before all these injuries. Sometimes it shows up, doesn't it?
Great catch.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it.
Leather underneath the whole way.
Who would you play in center of the current outfielders they have? Who's the best?
I mean, the fastest is Puig, but
they're afraid he's going to hurt multiple people if he's having. Although he's, you know, he is maturing and learning and all that, but
yeah, but they got 15 outfielders. I mean, one of them gets hurt, and you got more.
Would you give him a chance in center? Would you put Puig out there?
I think Ethier is more comfortable in right. You know, Matt Kemp's not comfortable in left, but you know, can he move well enough and play there on an everyday basis, because they need his bat in the lineup.
They've had Crawford taking some balls out in center.
I saw D. Gordon today during early batting practice was out there in center field. Can you imagine? Add another one to that, to the outfield fold. You know, it's when you have that many outfielders and they all have a chance. They've all, you know, their baseball card says they've been good. You know, it'll play out. The guys who are playing the best will play.
I wonder what it would be like to stick Puig out there for a week or 10 days and just see what happens. I mean, he's going to go after balls. He's going to. Yeah, everybody understands the style of play.
Well, yeah, he might have dove for that ball that Matt Kemp caught in the left field. He might have dove for that from coming from center.
Well, he's entrenched in right when healthy. And then the other guys, the other four, including Van Slyke, vying for center and left.
And you like to have that arm in right field, too, of Puig.
Yep.
That the others don't possess.
The inning finally over. But Peter Borges takes Clayton Kershaw deep with a 2-run home run here in the bottom of the 6th, and we've got ourselves a brand new ball game in St. Louis. It is now the Dodgers 3 and the Cardinals 3 here on Sunday Night Baseball. Three tie going to the 7th here in St. Louis. Play ESPN and MLB.com's new game, Sunday Night Showdown. Who will tally the most total bases? Yasiel Puig and D. Gordon, or Buster Posey and Pablo Sandoval next week on Sunday Night Baseball. It's free to play. Make your pick now at ESPN.com/MLB Showdown for your chance to win $2,500.
Can we play?
No. Here's D. Gordon against Shelby Miller to lead off the 7th. Well, maybe your son can play. Maybe my son can play, but I don't think we can.
Seth Maness and Randy Choate up in the bullpen. I'll handle this.
Gordon denied 1 for 3. And he slashes one into left field. That's a base hit. And maybe more. On his way to second base, and he is in there standing up. Second hit of the night for D. Gordon. 5th hit in the last 2 games.
Well, hustle should be something that never goes away on a daily basis. And D. Gordon, he knows when this ball's hit. Look, Matt Holliday is a great hitter. He's not the best defender in left field. Doesn't have the greatest of arms. He knew as soon as that ball hit the ground, it was a 2-base hit. Well, as soon as it left the bat, it was a 2-base hit. And now you have action. You have Hanley Ramirez up here, 3-3 game. Runner on second, no outs. Hanley drive him in or hit it the other way. Get D. Gordon to third base.
Showing bunt.
This isn't a situation right now that with no outs you would let D. Gordon steal the base. You let Hanley hit. Now, if Hanley makes an out without advancing him, now you might look for it.
Ramirez does not have a sacrifice this season.
Of course, he fakes that bunt and Carpenter comes flying in like that again. D. Gordon might be able to slip in behind him before Carpenter can get back. You see Shelby Miller, he's changing his cadence to home plate. He's not just one turn and look. He looked one time, held the ball right there, and on the second pitch he at bat to Hanley Ramirez.
If you're wondering, the last sacrifice Hanley Ramirez had came as a member of the Marlins.
I thought it was like Double-A or something.
It was in 2011. Ramirez tonight grounded out, walked and scored, and then hit by a pitch up on the left shoulder, a 98-mile-an-hour fastball from Carlos Martinez. And that led to Clayton Kershaw hitting Matt Holliday with the first pitch of the next inning. Warnings issued, nothing since.
Ain't over yet.
Crowd growing a little restless with Shelby Miller.
Well, and it's a 3-1 where you just turn Hanley loose. Now it's not about, you're trying to drive something the other way if you're going the other way, but you're not trying to hit a ground ball to second or first to move the runner. You're trying to do damage right here. Try to trade, at least trade spots with D. Gordon at second base.
And he walked him. And with Adrian Gonzalez coming up, you wonder if Mike Matheny's going to make a move for the left-hander. And indeed he is, and he's going to make a double switch as he is heading to home plate umpire Ed Hickox to tell him what the changes are. So that'll be all for Miller. We'll set you up on the changes and come back as Choate faces Gonzalez. The Dodgers looking to reclaim the lead they just surrendered. John Jay will be coming into the game. And Alan Craig heading out. We'll straighten it all out for you when we come back. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Audi, Truth in Engineering, and Let's Be Cops, August 13th, only in theaters. And Budweiser, great times are waiting. Grab some buds. This is Ballpark Village across the street. We showed you the exterior of it just beyond the left field wall here in St. Louis. On the site actually of where the old ballpark, Old Busch Stadium, used to be. A nice area for fans to gather before, during, and after games. Got their own rooftops here as well. And we've got some changes, a double switch. And we showed you John Jay coming into the game for Alan Craig in right field. So Jay goes in the 9 spot, and Randy Choate, the longtime left-handed specialist, is into the game. Put Choate in the 6th spot, in Craig's spot on the lineup. Choate is in to face Adrian Gonzalez. Runners at first and second, nobody out. There's Jay and right. And you can see why Choate can be tough on left-handed batters.
Yeah, that little the sidearm delivery throws a lot of breaking balls to left-handed hitters. This is where, if you're Adrian Gonzalez, you got to make sure that you keep that front shoulder in. If you bail just a little bit, you're going to look at a grounder to second base.
This is Choate's 38th appearance. They've covered 24 1/3 innings. He'll turn 39 in September. He's been a Yankee, a Diamondback, a Ray, a Marlin, a Dodger, and a Cardinal. Misses low.
If they don't have any more expansion, he's got a chance to play for them all, doesn't he?
These are the guys who travel. Remember Tony Faucett? He played for about 12 different teams. And
yeah, I played against Tony in the minor leagues when he was a starter. He threw hard. I mean, heavy ball.
Rick Honeycutt pitched forever. Right?
Yeah.
It's those left-handed guys. And off his glove, slows it down. There's one, and that's all they're going to get. If he either comes up with it cleanly or misses it completely, it's probably a double play.
Yeah, that's one of those where reactions take over and you try to catch everything. And if he lets that go, Mark Ellis was right there, and we're going to have another pitching change. Randy Choate did his job.
Got the one batter he was asked to face, and now Seth Maness will come into the game for the Cardinals to face Matt Kemp. Runners on the corners, 1 down. Back in St. Louis in a 3-3 tie, 7th inning, the Dodgers threatening. The MLB Fan Cave is back. Check out all the latest cave happenings at MLBFanCave.com. Follow at MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave on Facebook. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 12 years. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. The Cardinal Hall of Fame, part of Ballpark Village, and boy, they celebrate their history about as well as any baseball franchise does.
Well, it's very rich history.
Pretty good history.
Yeah, it's amazing. The players that have come through here, the World Championships.
Seth Maness into the game. Sorry, Craig.
That's all right. You can interrupt me. That's what he does.
And this is why he's in there. He gets ground balls. How about that? 1 pitch, 2 outs, and 1 rally snuffed out. 7th inning stretch. And we're back at the Busch Stadium. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. A tight game, tied at 3, going to the bottom of the 7th. Clayton Kershaw's back on the mound for the Dodgers. To face Mark Ellis, Tony Cruz, and then John Jay. Jay into the 9 spot after the double switch. Peter Borges with a 2-run home run in the 6th for St. Louis to tie the game. Ellis is 0 for 2. And a base hit.
The first fastball Kershaw threw in this at bat, he threw it up and in out of the strike zone, and there he comes, tries to come in again on Mark Ellis. And didn't hit it hard, Dan, but we have action. Leadoff hitter on. I don't know if you want to bunt Cruz here with John Jay coming up next, lefty on lefty. I think they want to take a look themselves.
Jay's actually hit lefties great this year. He's hitting .396 against them, 19 for 48, but this is no ordinary lefty.
But it's a tiring lefty who's not been sharp tonight, so maybe they do bunt Cruz and J.P. Howell in the bullpen just maybe for that reason.
He pops it up, and it'll get back off the screen.
Played for some managers who, when the guy would throw over, they'd have the hitter turn to bunt to try to give the perception to the other team that you're bunting, especially a guy who can hit a fastball. You hear the reports on Tony Cruz as he has some pop in his bat. Then you're like, okay, he's going to get a fastball here. Turn him loose and let's see if he can hit one.
Brandon League, a right-hander, has joined J.P. Howell in the bullpen for the Dodgers. Two guys pitching well. Going to try it again. And he's going to get it done. Now John Jay.
Perfectly executed bunt by Tony Cruz. Deadened it just enough to allow Mark Ellis to get in second, so Kershaw couldn't make that throw like we saw Carlos Martinez do earlier in the game. You can show that all you want, and I couldn't explain it. I might have been the worst bunter in the history of baseball. I couldn't bunt a lick.
Would you miss it? Would you pop it up? What would you do?
Stab at it.
Jay 1 for 7, 4 strikeouts in his career against Kershaw. But as we mentioned, just hitting lefties at an incredible clip. 19 for 48, including 4 doubles and a triple.
Like I said, you mentioned this is no ordinary lefty, but this is tonight he is pitching. Well, it's not ordinary. He's still better than average, but this is not a typical Clayton Kershaw performance. What we've seen the last 8 games from him, or the last 3 years for that matter. How do you like those numbers? 1 for 7 with 4 Ks. So sure 2 for 8 with a blooper over Uribe's head would help.
Cardinals would take that. .0 in his last 8 starts with an ERA of 0.74. The Cardinals have gotten to him for 3 runs tonight. Matt Carpenter with one of the key plate appearances of the game. A walk that he really earned. Fouled off a number of pitches. Drew a leadoff walk in the 6th, and then the next batter, Peter Borges, hit one out.
Trying to go slider down here if I'm down and away if I'm Kershaw. That's a fastball he wanted down and away, and you saw where the location was, up and in. Like I said, this isn't your typical Clayton Kershaw performance. Yet here it is in the 7th inning and 3 runs, and you're lucky. If you're the Cardinals, you have to think, okay, or the Dodgers, we're lucky that we're ahead in this game or tied in this game, because they think they have some missed opportunities because Martinez wasn't locked in.
And a fastball freezes him for strike 3 call. Number 8 on the night for Kershaw.
A 5-pitch at bat by John Jay, and there you see it, the fastball right down the middle. I mean, you try to jump him early, and then he goes way up, and then he goes up again. John Jay chases another one, so he took the strike and swung at the ball. And all of a sudden, Kershaw said, I can't fool around, and just went back fastball up and in, and then away right there to get him looking.
So 2 down now, and the batter is Matt Carpenter.
I mean, if you'd have thought, okay, the Cardinals starting pitcher is going to go 4 innings, and we're going to score 3 runs, and Kershaw's pitching, when you think Dodger win?
Yep. The way things have been going lately for Kershaw.
Yeah, but give the Cardinals credit. I mean, they battled, and when they had opportunities, they delivered.
Kershaw's been so efficient at times because his control's been so good that he's had complete games with fewer pitches than he's thrown right now, or 8-inning dominating starts with fewer pitches than he's thrown right now. The most pitches he has thrown in a game this year is 115.
Wasn't that in the no-hitter with the 15 strikeouts?
In the no-hitter, he threw 107.
He's thrown more this game than he has in that one.
Threw 115 in his last start against the Padres, a complete game 3-hitter. Still got all his velocity. Throw down to second, and they got him. Ellis is picked off at second base by A.J. Ellis to end the threat. Boy, a veteran guy, a good fundamentally sound baseball player. Mark Ellis gets picked off.
Well, the swing through by Carpenter, and I guess Ellis thought he was going to get a better jump and thought he was going to put it in play, but he's out by a lot. Kershaw happy.
Bottom of the 7th, the tag applied by Hanley Ramirez. Still a tie game. Kershaw's pumped up. 3-3 going top 8. Here's Andre Ethier, who's had a good night. 2 for 3, a triple, a single, a run scored, an RBI. Ethier, Van Slyke, Uribe, 5, 6, and 7. Seth Maness, who threw 1 pitch last inning, got a double play ball to win the inning, back out there for the 8th. Cardinal bullpen's quiet.
Well, this is an at bat, and Brian Wilson up in the pen, and You don't even need a name and number to know who that is. That's where he had to hit it.
Jams him, gets a pop-up.
But he gets a guy like Seth Maney's left-hand hitters have to stay on it and try to drive the ball the other way. He tricked easier there by coming in on him.
Now Van Slyke. So you played against his dad a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, Andy was no batting gloves, played center field. Every time he made a throw to home, he'd land on his, you know, did a little tumble job after he threw it. Great competitor, though. Hit in the middle of that lineup and hit third with Bonilla fourth and Bonds fifth.
Yeah, they were pretty good back then.
Oh, you think?
Won the division 90, 91, and 92, right?
Couldn't get over that hump, though.
Got it. Took a little off. 2 down.
It looked like Scott Van Slyke had one thing on his mind, and that was to try to go deep. You see this slider by Seth Maness. Well, that's a changeup. That's a thing had a lot of movement on it. See the circle change, but you see the head of Van Slyke come flying out after that swing. Watch the head go. Helmet falls off. He stayed on him for the most part, but that helmet came off. It tells you it's an overswing or a Carlos Gomez swing.
Here's Juan Uribe. He's had a good night. 3 singles. But every now and again gets really fooled by the slider.
Well, I mean, all you had to do was look at his left foot. His left foot, he was bailing, and he was going to try to put the Dodgers ahead with 2 outs.
Got to give him another one here, don't you?
Well, yeah, or you can come in because you have to think, okay, he's going to be protected. I don't know if Uribe thinks that way.
See ball, hit ball?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously. And it's a great way to go.
And a breaking ball again. And what a job by Seth Maness. The Cardinals coming back up. Top of the order. Bottom 8. Tie game. good one going here in St. Louis. Dodgers 3, Cardinals 3. There's the guy with the biggest hit of the game. Peter Borges hit a 2-run homer off Clayton Kershaw in the bottom of the 6th. Kershaw is done for the night, and here's Brian Wilson, who has not thrown a pitch in a game for the Dodgers, Crucky, in 2 weeks. No injury. They just haven't found the right spot for him. He's been struggling. He's been supplanted in certain spots by other guys, and this is his first game action in 2 weeks.
And you wonder how good his command's going to be, and not the kind of guy you want to face in Matt Carpenter to start your inning off without having pitched in 2 weeks. Carpenter he's not going to swing at the first pitch and make us sloppy out, I wouldn't think. Of course, this whole day is a surprise to me.
And with a strike to Carpenter. Carpenter 0 for 2 and walked and scored on the Borges home run. He was at the plate when Mark Ellis was picked off to end the last inning. So Kershaw goes 7 innings, gives up 3 runs, all earned on 6 hits, walks 1, hits 1, and strikes out 8. And he will get a no decision in this game. Cardinals winning 3-2 on Friday night, winning 4-2 yesterday afternoon.
I haven't seen him without his hat on. What's that look like under there? Is it
I think it's a mohawk, right?
Just mohawk with a long thing in the back and ponytail or something, whatever it's called.
Up and in.
A mohawk mullet, perhaps.
And here's J.P. Howell trying to keep up in the beard department. Kershaw's ERA, by the way, rose from 1.78 to 1.92 after tonight's outing.
He's awful.
Got it.
Maybe Matt Carpenter was a guy you need to face after 2 weeks off. First pitch fastball looked like a 2-seamer running away, and then he has this in the arsenal. It's a 4-seam fastball. I don't know how those guys can make that ball run like that 4-seam. But perfect location, and that's, Brian Wilson's known for that. He's never been a guy that just comes in there firing and missing the strike zone. He's always had pretty good command of his pitches, and it's a great example of it right there to Matt Carpenter.
A slow curveball there.
He's a power hitter. You got to be careful.
So Borges has hit a home run tonight. Taveras has already come and gone as a pinch hitter. Jay's already come into the game. Shows bunt, and he didn't go. 2-0 the count. Announced attendance tonight, 45,255 here at Busch Stadium.
Donnie Baseball saying that was an attempt right there. Okay, take another look at that one. That could have been.
Up the middle, a base hit. Making a bid for more playing time. And now you got to believe there's a chance he'll be in motion.
Yes, I think without question. A.J. Ellis has struggled this year with throwing out base runners, even though he picked off Mark Ellis last inning. Peter Borges can absolutely fly, and it's not going to surprise me if he goes. And as a guy who hit third in the lineup like Matt Holliday, you want him to do it early. Give you a chance.
See, there's the numbers to back up what Crucky was saying. And Borges is 6 for 8 stealing bases this year, has not played a ton. Holliday's got some good numbers against Brian Wilson.
went quick to first, and then now the hold and wait for a timeout here. And Matt Holliday to call time. Can't wait that long in the box. That's the only chance they have, is they have to mess up the base stealing rhythm of Peter Borges. You can't give him the same look or the same tempo every time.
Going. Throw down is safe at second. Borges, as Gordon could not hang on to it. Look like if he comes up with it cleanly, they might have him.
It looked like Peter Borges slipped a little bit coming out of the gates from first base. And watch his front foot. You see how that long step back? It didn't look like he got a good push off. And it's a play right there where D. Gordon comes up with that ball. You can see right there.
Well, the hand
wow,
knocked it
the
out.
slap of the hand. Is that A-Rod Bronson Arroyo like? Interesting. Can that not be reviewed?
Unintentional slap by Borges. Works in the Cardinals' favor. No argument from the Dodgers. Runner in scoring position now for Holliday. 5 RBIs already in the series.
Yeah, and what this could do is this could be a pitch around to Matt Holliday, take the bat out of his hand, and make Johnny Peralta beat you. And of course, Matt Adams following there if Peralta doesn't hit into a double play. You see Peralta right there, 2 for 3 for the night, and well, this takes it out of play. Now you don't have to worry about it for Brian Wilson.
The percentage play, though, if you're the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you mentioned it, 5 RBIs in the first 2 games of this series. And, when you look at the Cardinals lineup right now, he's the guy you say, okay, he's not going to beat us. And now they're not giving him a chance. But with Adrian Gonzalez playing behind him, I wouldn't necessarily think I'd want to be handling Ramirez or D. Gordon right now.
Peralta's 2 for 3 tonight and 3 for 3 in his career against Wilson.
And Peralta has to be very careful with the slider of Brian Wilson, because that's if he throws a good one, it could be a roll over to third or to shortstop for possibly a double play.
Would you want him thinking right center field here?
Absolutely. I think even with the fastball too. And you see there the first pitch fastball, 89 miles an hour, up and away. Eventually you're going to get that slider. Wilson loves throwing it.
Lays off, a ball and a strike.
Tell you what, Peter Borges has got himself a pretty healthy lead there off of second base.
Well, they've had one guy picked off second tonight already. Gordon holding him, trying to keep him close. Shallow fly ball to left field. 2 down. So it's going to be up to Matt Adams. And is he going to face the left-hander in Howell? No change.
Yeah. He brought him in to be that 8th inning guy, and this is the 8th inning. J.P. Howe has been pitching well. And this could be just a delay tactic to get J.P. Howe warm enough. And Mattingly that's a balk, I think, on Mattingly. He just came up a couple steps and went back.
And Howell's ready.
Yeah, Howell's ready.
He's expecting to come in.
Howell's ready, and Matt Adams started walking up. He saw Mattingly take a couple steps up. He took back to the dugout. Now Mattingly's coming back. A lot of decision going into a pitcher who's ready. I don't think he's still certain what he wants to do. He's making a double switch apparently here.
So that was the decision. What the second?
Yeah,
move
who we taking out?
Yeah.
Like Turner's going to come into third and Uribe's coming out.
And here comes Howell. So it'll be Howell and Adams when we come back. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Guinness. More character, more taste, more flavor. Guinness made of more. Please drink responsibly. Back here at Busch Stadium, a 3-3 tie. In the bottom of the 8th inning, the Cardinals have 2 men on with 2 outs, and the new pitcher is left-hander J.P. Howell. Has made 9 consecutive scoreless appearances, and he is a nightmare for left-handed batters. They're hitting 138 against him this year, Crucky, 8 for 58.
Well, and you look at his delivery, jumps at you like he's going to throw it 150, and you show 86 miles an hour, but he does have that big sweeping curveball and a great changeup that he'll throw to both lefties and righties. And you see the numbers, pretty impressive for a non-power pitcher. Put up those numbers.
Matt Adams hitting just 200 against lefties. So the percentages favor the Dodgers. At second, Borges; at first, Holiday. 2 down. Runner going from second, and he'll steal it without a throw.
Of 2 outs, that opens up the hole now between first and second. Because even though Adrian Gonzalez isn't going to hold on, Matt Holliday's going to play behind him. He's still going to play close enough that any ball hit hard in that hole, it's going to go by him. And now you see Adrian Gonzalez going to go talk to J.P. Howell. And this could be one of those where, Adrian is always big on trying to put on a pickoff play if he thinks it'll work. And this might be one of those where they try to lure Matt Holliday into feeling comfortable, getting a bigger lead, and try to sneak in behind him.
1-1. Just high.
I don't know about how high that one was. I mean, Matt Adams is a big man up there at home and caught the upper part of that, just the very upper part of that strike zone.
Look at you siding with the pitcher.
I love pitchers.
Huge moment here in this game. Misses down low with a breaking ball. 3-1.
Yeah, and even though it's first and third, there's still a base open, and you have another lefty coming up in Colton Wong, who could possibly be, since he is a rookie and might be a little more over anxious against a guy like J.P. Howe, who can try to trick you with that off-speed stuff. He's not going to throw a cookie in here to Matt Adams, I wouldn't think. Of course, this has been a crazy game, Dan.
Full count.
I think if I'm J.P. Howe, I'm going slow breaking ball, and because now you got Adrian Gonzalez playing way back because it's a 3-2 count with 2 outs. Holiday's going to be going anyway. I mean, that's his best pitch, his changeup or his breaking ball.
Gonzalez backs off behind first. Holiday will be on the move, but first Howell wants to talk to us. Carpenter struck out to begin the inning. Borges with a base hit. Stole second. Holiday intentionally walked. Peralta flied out, and then Borges stole third.
Well, and all that is confirmation. This is what I want to throw. This is what I want to call. Let's talk about it. Well, one mistake right here, and Matt Adams hits one out, and the game you would think would be over.
Is a foul ball. Almost cued it down the left field line.
Well, this is where a 3-2 count. You're Matt Adams. You know that you're just protecting because you can get any pitch right now from J.P. Howe. You get the fastball, you get the breaking ball, the changeup. You don't want to walk him, but you don't care if you do. If he wants to chase, let him chase.
Gordon's got it, and the inning is over as the Cardinals leave a couple of men on. End of 8. Still tied at 3.
forecast, but I've never prepared for a possible moment. For instance, the Henry Aaron. I did not think, what will I say if Henry hits the home run? I don't want to be prepared. I want the emotion, whatever it might be. I want that to be so true for the moment. Maybe I say nothing. Maybe I'm totally overwhelmed. I don't know. But I never prepare.
Vin Scully, the subject of Sunday conversation tonight on SportsCenter immediately following this game. Trevor Rosenthal is on for the Cardinals, tied at 3, top of the 9th. A.J. Ellis leads it off and lifts a fly ball to deep center field. Borges back, turns, and it's off the wall. Ellis on his way to second and in there safely. Not necessarily gracefully, but safely, giving it all he had to leg out a leadoff double.
I'm not sure that Peter Borges came up assuming a double on this play. It looked like he was throwing it more to the third base cutoff man. He's a catcher. He's running all the way. Just not very fast. But I mean, Borges had the ball when Ellis just hit first base.
And Ellis will leave for a pinch runner. Miguel Rojas, an infielder.
With Justin Turner hitting right here and speed on second, you would assume a bunt would be in order.
Rosenthal pitching for the 3rd game in a row in this series. There's been a little bit of concern that his velocity is somewhat diminished. He still throws hard, but not quite as hard. And he's been used a lot. Still 97.
Yeah, it's diminished. Surprisingly, Turner wasn't bunting.
D. Gordon's the on-deck hitter.
Maybe Don Mattingly trusts the fact that Turner can hit the ball the other way. Or, like we said earlier, maybe he's trying to get him a fastball by thinking he's going to bunt.
Checks the swing. They're playing him to hit the ball the other way.
97 will do that.
It will. He's just thinking ground ball to the right side if he can. Peppers one right off the mask of Cruz, and it's 2-1.
Well, that poor mask of Tony Cruz is. Look at him. He's checking it. How much more paint flew off that one? You got to take that into the body shop to get redone. See if there's any flakes fly off of this one. Oh, yep. Look.
Wow.
Yeah, some sparkles.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. As you've said before, you're so happy you weren't right-handed.
Yeah, no.
Because that's exactly where they would have put you. So Rosenthal in a situation here in the 9th. The leadoff double falls behind Turner. Kenley Jansen, the Dodger closer's warming up. Fouled back. D. Gordon waiting on deck. The Dodgers are a half game back of the Giants in the National League West. The Giants lost to the Marlins earlier today. The Cardinals are a half game ahead of Milwaukee. The Brewers lost to the Nationals earlier today. It is tight in all 3 NL divisions. Got it. So Mattingly trusted Turner, and Turner couldn't come through with a ground ball to the right side.
Yeah, you wonder why there was no bunt. And there's a 3-2 changeup after throwing 98, and he throws Turner a changeup. Kind of not fair, to be honest with you, but you know, you want to get that guy scoring position. You know, look, D. Gordon's not a big power hitter. He's a slaps the ball around the field, but you have to think that you got to give him a chance to drive in that run with on third, less than 2 outs.
Gordon tonight is 2 for 4, singled and doubled. And has done a very nice job, as you can see, with runners in scoring position. The Dodgers are a healthy 4 for 11 tonight in these spots. Although Turner just came up empty. Inside, a ball and a strike.
So much for his velocity being down. Down from what, 100? That's not bad. When it's down from like 88, that's when you might want to become a specialist.
98, but inside, ball 2. Cardinals have the off day tomorrow. They're home to the Rays Tuesday and Wednesday. Dodgers are in Pittsburgh tomorrow.
If I'm Rosenthal, he just threw 2 fastballs, 98 in off the plate to get the 2-1. He throws a fastball away to get the 2-2. He struck out Turner with the changeup. He just shook off the fastball. And he wants another changeup, I think. Or 99.
2 down.
Guess Cruz wanted to change up, and Rosenthal said, "It's coming out of my hand pretty good today."
Number 1's working.
Yeah. Well, 3 days in a row, your arm gets tired, but I mean, that's just. I'm just going to try to throw this by him, and if he hits it, he hits it. And you see it. It was by him.
Now Hanley Ramirez. Starts him with a breaking ball.
The whole arsenal's coming out. Hanley's watching from the thing. He sees it. It's 98, 99. Change up 3-2 to Turner to strike him out. Let me hook you, Hanley. There you go. You haven't seen that one yet, have you?
0-2. 99.
He might try to reach triple digits right here.
And he can throw any of the 3 right now.
Yeah, it's pretty much at his disposal. I mean, he's doing nasty with the Turner, but you wouldn't think 0-2 he'd throw a changeup and take a chance. I'm thinking fastball.
Ooh, he got hit again. Ramirez is hit for the 2nd time in the game. And again, clearly no intent. 0-2, 9th inning tie game. That's obvious. But Ramirez is having a tough night. He's been hit by 98 and 99 tonight.
Yeah, I think that one got him on the hand, and that's or the wrist, maybe. You see Donnie looking out, shaking his head.
Now Mattingly probably wants Rosenthal tossed from the game. Now an important distinction here. Even once warnings are given, that does not mean that if a batter is hit, the pitcher is automatically thrown out. What it means is if the umpire deems it intentional, then the pitcher and the manager are thrown out.
Yes. And I think it's the right call not to throw Rosenthal out of the game. It's clearly no intent. 0-2. You know, if it was any other hitter but Hanley after being hit already once in this game, you would, you know, no issue. I think it's the velocity and the location of where it hit him. It hit him right on the wrist and hand. Look at that. That's just instant pain. Yeah, I would be almost shocked if nothing's broke on Hanley.
You can understand the frustration of Don Mattingly, but the umpires are within the rules and their rights not to toss out Rosenthal.
Yeah, it looked like the trainer just turned to Donnie and said, no, he can't go. And you see Hanley now walking past. But yes, Don Mattingly has every right to be upset because his guy got hit twice, once up in the shoulder and this one in the hand. You know, up high again, not head high, but high. And with warnings being laid out to both teams, the issue would be, you would think, okay, if he hit a guy, we got to throw him out of the game. But I think the umpires used great judgment here. There's no way he was hitting him on purpose. 0-2.
Now, Drew Butera, a catcher, is going to run, but A.J. Ellis had already been lifted for a pinch runner. They're going to need Butera anyway, so they're not going to burn a second player on the so-called extra run here in the 9th inning.
And Rojas will just stay in the game and go to shortstop for Hanley. And
so Puig and Crawford are still available. If this were the go-ahead run, you might see a different situation. But
yeah,
it's the second run. Meanwhile, it's Adrian Gonzalez.
Adrian's been swinging early in the count this whole game. See if he can. Got to wait out Rosenthal till he gets something he can hit, and maybe the first pitch is the one.
On the appeal, or did he call it right at the plate? I might have looked down a fraction late, but it's 0-1. It was on appeal.
He called it on the appeal. Yeah, and a good call.
Puig looking on. Rojas at second, Butera at first. Hanley Ramirez out of the game. Tied at 3, top of the 9th. And a base hit into right field. Here comes Rojas. Here comes the throw. It's up the line, and the Dodgers have the lead. To third goes Butera, and on the errant throw, Gonzalez is into second.
Usually the general rule of third base coach, if the left fielder gets the ball before your guy hits third, you hold him. But Lorenzo Bundy, third base coach for the Dodgers, sent Rojas anyway. It looked like he got a bad jump off of second base. Here you see the pitch, 98 up and into Adrian Gonzalez. He does get jammed, and that probably helped the fact that Rojas scored. But that's basically a 1-hop, 2-hop to John Jay, and he just threw a cutter into home plate. If he throws it on the line, it looks like he scores, or it looks like he has a play on Rojas. But here you see the happy Dodgers. Even when you're not playing, Dan, grab the pom-poms.
Here's Matt Kemp. So twice the Dodgers have led, twice the Cardinals have come back to tie, and now the Dodgers take the lead again at the top of the 9th. They've got Kenley Jansen ready to go, trying to add on a little bit more. Their concern will be with Hanley Ramirez and what the damage is on his hand, but the immediate thought is to win the game and salvage the final game of this series after the Cardinals took the first 2. Yes, he did. 6, 7, 8 coming up for the Cardinals in the bottom of the 9th. Pitcher spot, which presumably will be Colton Wong. And then Mark Ellis and Tony Cruz. Against that guy. And when he's on, he's as nasty as they come.
He's the new Mariano with that cutter.
Wow.
Just barely outside, but there's been an issue the whole night with the strike zone, but that's been pretty consistent. Rosenthal was 3/4 away into the dugout when he had to go back to the mound on that one.
Now the inning is over. Rosenthal strikes out 3, but also gives up a run. And the Dodgers have a 4-3 lead going to the bottom of the ninth. Jansen coming on for LA. Bottom of the ninth, and it will be Colton Wong leading off for the Cardinals, who find themselves trailing 4-3 after the Adrian Gonzalez base hit gave the Dodgers the lead. Changes for the Dodgers. Miguel Rojas remains in the game at short. Drew Butera stays in the game. He will catch. And on the mound, the closer for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Kenley Jansen. Check out the strikeout to innings ratio. 62 strikeouts in 38 2/3 innings.
So what you're saying is they don't put it in play very much.
And it's the cutter, right, as you were saying?
It is the Mariano cutter. Yeah, he throws it extremely hard, both sides of the plate. A little bit bigger in stature than Mariano.
Sure 6'5", 265.
Yeah, that'll work. I'm sure the Dodgers hope he has half the career Mariano had.
Has not given up a run in his last 9 appearances, covering 9 innings. Has a win and 7 saves in that stretch. Facing a guy who started the year cold, got sent down to the minors, found his stroke, came back up, and hit 5 home runs in the last 8 games before the All-Star break. Wong pinch hitting in the pitcher spot.
Well, this is the advantage of Colton Wong not starting the game. He's a guy with speed, one of the few guys on the Cardinals that'll run, but he also has, like Mike Matheny said, one of the quicker bats you'll see, and can he catch up to that cutter and possibly tie this thing up?
Mike Matheny has a unique perspective on it because he throws batting practice. Very few managers throw BP, but Matheny throws to Wong and said, you know, sometimes I throw him pitches, and granted it's BP, but he's only about 40, 45 feet away. He says, and he gets to balls that are right in on his hands and keeps them fair because his hands are so quick.
That's what you have to be with this cutter. More than likely it's going to be on the inner half of the plate or off the plate. You just got to get to it quick. Tell you what, Ed Hickok's been pretty good with that ball up, but that one is fording the K zone, way up out of the strike zone, and it's a tough 2-0 pitch right there.
And a little low, 3-1.
Well, that is a hitter you can take. He might give him the high one, but he's not giving him the low one, so we're good now. Unless you're a low ball hitter.
Pops him up. Ethier in from right. Celebrate Sunday all season long with special ticket offers. Head to the ballpark with your friends and family. Go to MLB.com/Sunday. Follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com. At bat for your mobile device. Get scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit MLB.com for details. One down in the ninth. Here's Mark Ellis. Cutter at 92. And it's 0-1 on Ellis.
Yeah, but see, that's the difference. You saw Rosenthal get, guys getting hits off of him with 98, 99s, 97 fastballs, but they're straight. You put movement on it, it's a whole different animal.
Dialed it up to 95, and it's 0-2. Rangers Yankees tomorrow night here on ESPN. Wednesday the Giants and the Phillies. Sunday the Giants hosting the Dodgers. Early look looks like Matt Cain and Hyunjin Ryu next week on Sunday Night Baseball. Broken bat Papa. 2 down. So it'll be up to Tony Cruz.
Well, that's what you get with the cutter. It's hard to barrel it up. So Colton Wong 3-1, got underneath one and popped it up, and Ellis hit one off the end of the bat. The little blooper to D. Gordon.
A strike.
That looked like the old garden variety four-seamer.
Yeah. The big hit, the top of the ninth inning. Adrian Gonzalez with a 2-out RBI single off Trevor Rosenthal. The Dodgers an out away. Wow. That wasn't a garden variety anything right there.
That was. Didn't quite reach, did it?
55-foot slider.
He's experimenting. He hadn't thrown anything else, has he? Cutter, that four-seamer and a cutter. Probably hadn't worked on that breaking ball in a while.
Swing and a miss, 1-2. If it holds up, Howell gets the win. Rosenthal takes the loss. Jansen gets the save. And it would be a much needed win for the Dodgers. Got him. Jansen strikes out Cruz, and the Dodgers win it 4-3. Here to take the final game of the series after losing the first two in St. Louis. Major League Baseball coverage continues tomorrow, 7 Eastern. The Yankees in Arlington. Then you can catch up with all the latest baseball news with Baseball Tonight. SportsCenter's next tonight. For John Krukbuster Olney and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying thanks for watching and so long from St. Louis.